4th Annual Cannabis Townhall. Get together. We're so excited to have you here today because you could be anywhere, but you chose to be here with us to really explore what the cannabis industry is and what it will be. So appreciate everyone. So welcome to the evolution of cannabis, or as I like to refer it to as the Cannalution. The Cannalution will be televised and streamed. I'm your host, Nichelle Santos, and today we'll bring to you the energy of the emerging hemp and cannabis markets, both medical and adult use, the history, the criminalization to now the commercialization, the science, technology, and innovation, the laws, the politics, and the regulations, all for the love of the plant. I serve as the state co-director with my partner Gaetano, Lardieri, there he is, hey Gaetano. Minorities for medical marijuana, or we refer to them as M for MN. We stand on the pillars of social justice, social equity, health equity, and good policy. I also serve as a board member of the Coalition of Medical Marijuana of New Jersey, who really they're trailblazers, right? I joined last year. So they blazed a trail in creating the medical marijuana market here in the state of New Jersey back in 2010. So we'll talk about CMMNJ in just a few minutes. And I also serve as the founder and CEO of Canna Coverage, providing insurance for the commercial cannabis industry, as well as employee health benefits. So all your core benefits, and now we've added medical cannabis and psychedelics as an employee health benefit. So really innovational products that we're bringing to the mainstream market. So this New Jersey Cannabis Town Hall was brought to you by CMMNJ, the Coalition, and Minorities for Medical Marijuana. All members of these esteemed organizations, please stand up to be recognized. I'd also like to welcome our distinguished elected officials whose role is to create good policy to make government run efficiently, effectively, and equitably, to make our communities a better place to live. The cannabis industry is increasingly becoming a normalized discussion within government at the federal, state, and local levels. So elected officials, please stand up. So today's programming is meant to inspire, educate, bring social justice with our expungement clinic, strategies for social equity, network for collaboration to build a Jersey-strong, safe, legal, equitable cannabis industry. This is a historic moment with the end of prohibition of the cannabis plant. The history of the Coalition of Medical Marijuana of New Jersey is also important, as the medical marijuana industry set the foundation that has led the pathway to the cannabis adult use market. The coalition was founded by Ken Wolski and Jim Miller. So Ken, please come.
Thank you, Nichelle. CMMNJ, the Coalition for Medical Marijuana in New Jersey, we celebrate our 21st anniversary this year. We were founded in 2003 when I met Jim Miller. Our first public appearance was at the White Dog Cafe in Philadelphia on March 10th, 2003. It was one of the first outreach efforts for Cheryl Miller and the wife of CMMNJ co-founder Jim Miller. Cheryl found that marijuana was the only drug that relieved the spasm that she experienced from her multiple sclerosis that was finally instrumental in her death shortly after that first medical appearance. Cheryl died of complications on June 7, 2003. CMMNJ was instrumental in creating the Compassionate Use Medical Marijuana Act introduced into legislation in 2005 and signed into law in 2010. In 2014, CMMNJ endorsed legalization of cannabis, calling it the best way to get this essential medicine to most people. Right now, our post-legalization goals include insurance coverage for medical cannabis, home cultivation rights, and hospital and institutional access for medical cannabis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Now that cannabis has been made legal since 2012 and the adult use cannabis since 2020, it's time we elevate our strategy for a higher focus on patients who rely on cannabis as medicine. Plant-based medicine belongs in healthcare. It's time for us to evaluate the standards of care to protect consumer health and safety for cannabis and especially for hemp-derived products. It's time for science, research and development, medicine and technology to find its rightful place to create regulatory policies that benefit the health and wellness of consumers and patients. Today, I have the honor of introducing our County of Somerset Commissioner Director Chanel Y. Robinson. She is currently serving her 4th year as Somerset County Commissioner Director and her 2nd term as Somerset County Commissioner. She is the first African American woman to serve in either role. She represents the roughly 345,000 residents in the county. She previously served as council member and deputy mayor in Franklin Township, New Jersey. In addition to Chanel's work, the commissioner's work as an elected official, she is the assistant borough administrator for the borough of Roselle, a town that has opted into cannabis. She had previously served as an information technology executive in the healthcare industry. Chanel holds a bachelor's degree in labor studies and employee relations from Rutgers University. Our commissioner is also a proud veteran of the United States Air Force. And a member of Sigma Pi Sigma Physics Honor Society. That's some serious stuff. Please put your hands together for our Commissioner Director, Chanel P. Robinson.
Thank you for that introduction, Nichelle, and it's a pleasure to welcome all of you to Somerset County and this beautiful campus of Raritan Valley Community College. So much is happening in public policy with the evolution or the cannelution of the cannabis industry, where it is now legal in 39 states with either medical cannabis and or adult use. President Biden issued a proclamation requiring those with federal cannabis charges for simple and attempted possession. Criminal records for marijuana use and possession have imposed needless barriers to employment, housing, and educational opportunities. Too many lives have been destroyed because of our failed approach to marijuana. It is now time we right these wrongs. Reclassification of cannabis under President Biden by the HHS and DEA from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. We'll have to wait and see what happens, the full implication of these changes and what they mean, the pros and cons, and how we move forward together. So what does that mean for New Jersey? Well, on Wednesday, Governor Murphy announced the clemency program, which was a potential to wipe thousands of people's records clean to provide a second chance at becoming productive citizens with access to civil rights and avert their pathway to poverty. And on this coming Monday, coming out of the committee A2835 is a second chance program that establishes and provides opportunities for labor organizations. So New Jersey is on the move and making sure that we holistically approach the cannabis and cannabis industry. And as we all know, cannabis use is on the rise. So New Jersey's cannabis market earns over $800 million in medicinal and recreational cannabis sales in 2023. And added to that, the 2022 sales figures were over $555 million, and year-to-date sales in 2024. The burgeoning market has now earned more than $1.3 billion. $1.3 billion since the beginning of sales in April of 2022. I hope you all will be able to make new connections on today with insights to help you achieve your goals in New Jersey's cannabis industry. And congratulations to you all for taking the first steps to help shape our cannabis economy. You're at the right place at the right time. Enjoy the rest of this conference and the rest of your day, and may you all be able to achieve what it is you came to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Director Robinson, for breaking down the policy that has happened on a federal level, as well as what's happening locally here in the state of New Jersey. So much more to be done, so thank you. So now we want to get started with our panel discussions, and we'll be starting with our moderator, Sarah Trent. She is the owner, the CEO, the founder of Valley Wellness, located right here in Raritan, New Jersey. So Sarah Trent also serves as an attorney. I was looking for you over there. Right here next to you. There she is, Sarah. So, her dispensary, Valley Wellness, first was licensed as medical cannabis, and now you have obtained your adult use license as well. That's really exceptional. Congratulations. So her dispensary has been an exceptional and welcomed business in town. She has been a trailblazer and pioneer in bringing cannabis curriculum to community colleges such as Raritan Valley Community College. Yes. To educate entrepreneurs to accelerate the building of a robust cannabis ecosystem here in New Jersey. Please welcome Sarah Trent for our first panel discussion, Building the Cannabis Ecosystems in Municipalities.
Thank you, Nichelle. I think since Nichelle's done all the talking up to this point, I want to keep her right here. And one more round of applause because Nichelle is the organizer of this it is hard to put on an event like this, and I know that she and I were both up very late last night. I did. So I'm going to invite the whole first panel up. Come on up, guys. We are being joined today by Director Wesley McWhite from the CRC, Mayor Nicolas, Rendhel, Pierre-Louis, Clayton Marshall, and Rivera Rodriguez. Everybody grab a seat on up here, and I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves so that I don't miss any of their many accolades. But make sure that everybody's mic is working, and then maybe I'll shoot down to the far end of the table, and Rendhel, maybe you can kick it off by introducing yourself.
I'm Pierre-Louis, the CEO and founder of Santos. We have Tier 6 cultivation. We just got our conditional, we got our approval in March, so we're in construction. We're expecting our first harvest in January. We have 20 acres in Pleasantville, New Jersey. So over the course of the next year, we'll be building out retail as well. Part of our concept is
then you also have experience operating out of state, is that correct?
So the last 10 years in California.
Woo! So out-of-state operator coming into New Jersey, bringing that experience, and I'm going to be asking you some questions later on about that. Eliza, kick it off.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Eliza Rivera Rodriguez. I am the owner, CEO, and founder of the Other Side Dispensary, which is located in Jersey City. We are 100% minority owned and operated and funded, so we raised $1.2 million with only black and brown dollars. I also own a wellness facility called Sweat. I have multiple locations throughout Hudson County, and I also teach in a community college in Jersey City. In a former life, I was in the military. I did 10 years as a military police officer.
Thank you.
So I am a two-time service disabled veteran, and also spent some time working in policy. So that's my background, and I came over to the other side of my life, which is what the dispensary is called. So we will be open in about 3 weeks. It's not out there. It's so tough. It's always changing. But we are very, very close. Construction is right there. Final inspection. So upstairs is a consumption lounge, which is coming very soon. So hope to have you guys all on the other side.
When I talk about cannabis business licensing, patience. So I see that Eliza's voice, I can hear it. All right, Mayor Carra, thank you so much for joining us. Actually, Mayor Carra is from Raritan, the municipality where Valley Wellness is located, so you're going to hear me talk about the experience I had appearing in front of the council, and then you'll also hear from Mayor Carra today about us presenting, Valley Wellness presenting to the council, but please introduce yourself, Mayor.
Thank you, Sarah. So I'm the mayor of Raritan Borough, been the mayor since January. I was a councilman there for 7 years prior. We've been working with Sarah since, I think I met her mid-2018, and it took her at least 4.5, 5 years to open her dispensary. You know, we had much heated debate. Sarah was very thorough, though. She would come to every council meeting, every planning board meeting, making sure to answer questions amongst the residents, putting a lot of the, I guess, misconceptions that are out there, just about, you know, people worry that it become a lounge, there would be some kind of activity outside, but Sarah, just to say, she got the highest score during her period for licensing.
Thank you for having Mr. Carra.
It's been a real treat to work with. I mean, I've had no issues with her. I think most of the residents have no issues with her operation. She's gone above and beyond things that we didn't even condition. She's done just to be a good community partner and give back. But I appreciate her having me here today to help with municipality stuff. Thanks.
Thank you. That's one of the things we're going to talk about today is generally community engagement with cannabis businesses. And when I, give presentations like this, I think the most important thing to get across is showing up, being there, being in the room. Valley Wellness wasn't even on the agenda for some council meetings, but I was like, I better go and find out what's happening in town. If I just sit in that room and listen, I'm going to find out something that I'm going to be able to use later on. And sure enough. Director Wesley McWhite, thank you so much for joining us, all the way from Trenton. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Wesley McWhite. I am the Director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion for the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission. I've been in this role, almost 300 years.
It's like dog years, right?
Dog years, times a million. No, it'll be 3 years in the fall. It is an honor and a privilege to be in this role, to go from seeing an agency at its inception to now seeing businesses opening, businesses thriving, and hopefully businesses expanding that are homegrown, no pun intended. In this role, it is my statutory responsibility to promote the industry, to also on both the adult use side and on the medical side, and also to encourage and to pull in individuals from the communities who historically have not been a part of the cannabis industry, including and up to minorities, women, disabled veterans, members of the LGBTQ community, just you name it, gamut. We want to make sure both on the labor side and on the business operation side that we see diversity. And so far, we are meeting all of our statutory goals as far as certified minority-owned businesses, certified women-owned businesses, and certified disabled veteran-owned businesses, and more to come. This office also does things like this, outreach, stays in the community to help promote the industry, and we also recommend policies, practices, and procedures to make sure that individuals that are in this industry of diverse backgrounds stay in this industry. So I encourage you all to engage with your public agency, New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, whether you're pro-cannabis or not. It is a state agency that has real consequences and reverberations around government just to prop up this agency, to prop up this industry, and keep this work going. So I can't wait to talk to you all.
A big shout out to Director McWhite. He is the most accessible person at the CRC, one of the most accessible. The Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion puts himself out there all the time to meet with license holders and hear feedback from us and also be out in the community. So I feel very lucky to have a direct ear, in a way, to your office. Thank you. And last but not least, Clayton Marshall.
Hey, how you guys doing? So my name is Clayton Marshall, and I'm the founder of Grassroots Life. Grassroots Life is an info system. So my background is in programming. One of the first steps I built was Vegas.com. And basically capital in the cannabis space for over 10 years. First person to help raise 10 million for Tanzini. And that's Tanzini, which is the premier extractor when it comes to cannabis. He has pretty much most of the patents pertaining to extracting THC from cannabis. And I helped him raise capital to actually do his patents, build his machines. So that's how I kind of got into, helping startups raising capital. Because of my background as a Las Vegas concierge, I had a lot of high net worth clients where became friends. You're in Vegas, you cross a path from being where clients are friends. So I could always scale and call people and raise millions of dollars, through my network, So when I came back home to Jersey, a friend of mine was starting a dispensary and couldn't raise capital, and I took him to Vegas. And he needed to raise like $2 million, we raised $5 million. And then when I was coming back, I was like, I'm gonna have to call people and tell people, like, I'm gonna have to give some of his money back. And Tony, who I raised money for, was like, are you an idiot? Like, give his money back, like, help other people, right? So that's what I kind of do was use my relationships to kind of help startups raise capital, especially in the cannabis industry. A lot of it's been very hard for minorities. Let's just be real. A lot of people that gave the license who didn't have the money, didn't have the networks to actually raise the capital. And that's real, So as a programmer, I surveilled the Jersey saying that you got to do what's called due diligence for investors. And I realized that there wasn't a platform that could access the data, so I built it. So I built 3 different platforms. I built Grassroots Index, which is a crowdfunding platform for startups to raise capital. I just pretty much streamlined my process. We're doing a more Shark Tank approach to where startups will be able to come with me. I bring investors to them, they pitch to investors, and that's the crowdfunding. We call it Grassroots Kickstarter. I own a bar in Browns Mills. That's where we kind of do the Kickstarter. I bring my investors in, and there's a whole multi-tier of it. But now we are actually shooting a show with Keith Nolan about it, So that's one part of Grassroots Index. Grassroots Index also does industrial analysis. Whenever you write a business plan, the most important part of a business plan is your industrial analysis. That means you have done a thorough assessment of that industry. And that's what we did. We, put together information that's typically, well, I couldn't find it anywhere, meaning every county, and then every town, and then every mayor, every administrator, every council person, we get, why did they vote? Did they opt in? Did they opt out? Why did they opt out? And we just, it's transparency, especially the app was just released last week, and I'm not sure if y'all follow this, because Murphy just signed a bill that's going to ban Oprah. Which they did was they made it harder for municipalities to report what they're doing is corruption. And police officers, you can't get body cam videos anymore. Like, that was a shot for transparency in New Jersey. So I was kind of ahead of them because I was already doing the work of compiling everybody's data. So that actually helped me because I hired reps that goes out to different meetings and track these people's votes. We sit down with them and ask them why did you vote, why didn't you vote, and we're transparent. So by the end of 2024 into 2025, we're releasing a book that's going to have all our findings,
So that's grassroots index.
Right, and then I'll jump, and I know it's a lot, but it's ironic because she's having an event for ecosystem, and I built it. So it's important for me to kind of give you 2 more legs, and then I'm gonna jump off tonight. So then build a grassroots marketplace, which is like Amazon. So where any dispensary can come and put their products up, and it does QR coding and barcoding, so your entire inventory list will be readily available, especially for NJCRC. It helps to make it to where they're in compliance. And so then that's marketplace, and Global Rewards is just one app that has everything on it. I'm gonna stop.
All right, well, we're going to circle back on all of those aspects, but just to keep the momentum moving here, when I think about what's going on in municipalities with cannabis, there's really, I'm always like breaking it down into buckets. One of those buckets is pre-licensing. So you just heard we have 3 operators up here, Ren, Eliza, and myself. And we worked for months, years, before we even applied to the CRC for that license. Then there's the other bucket. Well, post-license, like actually after you have your license from the CRC, after your store is open or your cultivation facility is open, how does that engagement with the community continue? And how does it continue into workforce development and other community projects like this event as you continue to hone in operations? So Eliza, I'm going to punt to you first here. Can you talk a little bit about your experience? How did you get in front of the people you needed to get in front of in Jersey City? We're talking about Hudson County over there. And I know Jersey City is a little different because I think you guys have a lot of dispensaries over there. So another question I was going to ask you is how do you kind of differentiating yourself when there are a lot of other stores in JC?
All right, so I'll start with the first leg of getting the municipal approval. So I actually started my process in another municipality. I went through 3 municipalities before I landed in my city that I'm actually from, Jersey City. So I started in Hoboken, and they sent me a letter that said I was too close to someone else. So that's one of the first challenges that you'll have is finding a properly zoned location. Then I moved to Atlantic City. We were sort of hesitant. No negativity there. Like I think we would have been successful, but my realtor made me a call and he said, listen, I think I got something back home for you. Let's see if we can make it happen. So our process, and I think one thing about cannabis is everybody's story is really unique. We have sort of the same challenges overall from sort of a micro scale, but when you look at what we've been through all individually, they can be different. So I have a property that is in a previously unzoned area. So I sat on an unzoned property while the city rezoned it, benefit, and I can sort of go into your second question of how to differentiate myself. Well, although Jersey City is seen as a saturated location, no one is next to me. No one can be next to me.
That's exciting.
That's a huge risk, paying rent month end out end in hopes that happens. The other piece of it is Jersey City has their own municipal process for you to go to a board, right? So the same way that you go through the state process, you go through the municipal process, they give you a resolution. In Jersey City, the approach that they had was sort of, and this is the mayor also running for governor's words, may the best man win, right? So They didn't put a cap on the license, not as many as you would think. They may be 60 with a resolution, there's maybe 6 that are open. And with a couple of us coming online, we'll maybe end in Jersey City with 20 dispensaries. So, and I'll just leave with the board process, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to circle back on how were you able to engage the municipality to ask them to zone that area for cannabis after you found that location?
So they typically won't rezone. I just happen to have relationships that, I was able to navigate that, but that's really what it comes down to, is relationships, being resourceful, and engaging with the community. Now from afar, being there, showing up at meetings, talking to the community, we held and hosted several community meet and greet dates where the front of our facility, we opened up and we allowed people that live in the direct community to come and meet us. There's a lot of misconception about ownership and who owns and who's the face and who's the name. I didn't want there to be any confusion. I wanted the community to understand who the operator really was, who my team was. We even brought renderings so that they could have some ease and see how we were going to integrate this facility to further beautify the neighborhood rather than this misconception that it's gonna, make it look like some of the liquor stores that don't keep upkeep or, challenges with folks walking by. So I think it's really important to do that work and show up in the community. Once you do that and you have the buy-in from the folks that you actually are gonna be serving and that you live amongst, I went to board meetings and there were people in the community that I didn't even know that were advocating for me. They were saying, this is the type of operator that we want here. So, you could just pay attention. I went to hundreds of board meetings and watched people state their case and share their social responsible practices and sustainable practices and all of these things for hours. And we were there for 20 minutes. Green light. It shows that if you really do the work with the people in the community and you go places where you're celebrated rather than tolerated, right? Who wants to have an adversarial relationship with the people of the community that they're gonna serve? So if you start there, you're gonna win every time.
So well said. Ren, I want to jump to you in a second, but first I'm going to ask Director McWhite. Piggybacking off of what Eliza said, from the CRC's perspective, how can cannabis businesses establish a positive relationship with that municipality, whether or not it be pre-licensing, post-licensing, but what are the things that the CRC wants to see?
I think it first starts with education, knowing the law and the statute. A lot of times, what happens at the local level is a lot of municipalities, and a lot of them did not opt into the industry. They did not allow cannabis businesses to set up shop there, which is unfortunate because the majority of the state voted in favor for the cannabis question. So what we're left with are municipalities that are kind of peeking through the blinders at other municipalities to see how it's going. But the evidence is very clear. Municipalities that have embraced cannabis so far have embraced new business owners, entrepreneurs, supporting jobs and taxes to their towns by way of cannabis businesses. And so first off, what we would like to see is people first understanding that the law already gives municipalities a whole lot of leeway and power on how to set up cannabis businesses. So that's one, knowing the statute. The second is, like Dr. Eliza said, is real community engagement still matters, particularly with the folks who are your leaders in your municipalities. And so not just engaging in cannabis, but also engaging in other aspects of the town's life, their business operations, their taxes, and being able to be intricate in the way that leaders are shaping their thoughts and their decisions, because they're looking for retired, disabled veterans who also own health and wellness shops and who also is now opening a cannabis dispensary because they are vital members of the community. And then lastly, I think it's always making sure that you're just available to be a bridge between the CRC agency and your municipal folks. I mean, we are a new state agency. We don't even have half the staff that we need, and we're a little over 100 right now. So we are also stretched thin, and so we lean heavily, almost too much sometimes, on businesses who interact and educate at the municipal level as well. And we continue to do as much as we can. We meet with municipal leaders in an open forum, closed door kind of meeting once a quarter. And we're also, working on trying to convince municipalities to opt in who have not already. And so in order to support this industry, we're going to have to break stigma, and breaking stigma also means educating folks who make the decisions that are really going to alter really all of our lives here with this panel, and many of us in this room.
565 municipalities, and I actually don't know the exact number of how many municipalities have opted in.
241.
Oh, put you on the
If you
spot.
go to our website, we have a government relations page now.
And actually, you just started that page. Can
Just
you
started.
speak a little bit to that page?
Yeah, so it's something that we have been fighting. Although you do not see something happening, that people want the CRC to do things, we are tirelessly working behind the scenes to make them happen. So since day one, our comms team and our executive directors team and my office, and all of us really have been trying to create a list of municipalities that have opted in. Businesses have been telling us for years, even before applications open, we need to know what municipalities are opting in. In other states, you can find a municipal list of, of opt-in municipal list, but that can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. But here in the state of New Jersey, you can go to our website, and under our government relations page, you can see a list of municipalities that have opted in and the license classes that they are accepted.
I know the lawyers that I am friends with love that page, because lawyers were keeping their own internal list of the opt-in and opt-out, but now the government's providing us that list. I promise I am coming back to you, Red, but Clayton, I wanted you to speak a little bit more about Grassroots Index, piggybacking off of what Director McWhite was just talking about.
First, I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to...
And how, let me ask you this, is Grassroots Index mostly used by operators that are trying to come into a municipality to research what's going on in that town?
So Grassroots Index is merely investor driven. It's grassroots to get data and on that but it helps users as well. Like for example, with the municipality that he's talking about, right? Where the municipality, the list they have, yes, it's going to tell you who opted in and opted out, but what it's not going to tell you is each town sets their own limits. Like they can say, okay, we want 2 retails, we want 1 manufacturing, we want 1 cultivation. Or even in that like Mount Holly would say, yeah, we want this, but we want them, we'll give you an incentive if you hire people from Mount Holly, and then we'll waive the application fee, right? So each township has so much information that you need, and that's where we built on. We built on all the other things that you would need to know that township. And it leads me to the next thing with her, and I'm so happy that she was able to go through this gauntlet and got to where she is, because it's truly designed to control who can go into what town. From my research, even if a town opts in, right, and you have your license, you still have to submit it to the board. And what if they don't like you? What if for whatever reason they have a certain perception of you, right, and they'll block you? So it's very discriminative, being real, and it's almost designed to keep out people they don't want and let in people they do want. And so it just adds another hurdle if you're in this industry where you're having issues raising capital, and then your next issue is the municipality, because it becomes like a old boys network, and what if the old boys don't like you?
We're seeing that, going historically, so Valley Wellness actually is first and foremost an alternative treatment center. I see my colleague Suzan Nickelson here. She also operates an alternative treatment center What that means is that we are first and foremost a medical facility. I know that Suzan and I both really take our obligations to medical patients very, very seriously. We prioritize medical patients from the moment they pull in our driveway, dedicated parking, they move right to the front of the line, they get discounts that others don't get. We are always prioritizing medical patients. We then, similar to Suzan, went through a process applying to the CRC to be able to convert and now also serve adult use or recreational customers as well. I got off track there a little bit. So during that, Nichelle's giving me the 5-minute mark. Oh geez. All right, Ren, going to you. What was your experience like applying for the permit in South Jersey? And if you could compare and contrast anything that Eliza said.
No, I probably for the most part agree with Eliza.
Mike?
I probably for the most part agree with everything Eliza and Mr. McWhite said. The only thing I would add is that, just to sort of add to it, you're selling yourself. And you should never walk into any of these meetings with the municipality, frankly, assuming that they know anything, right? And I don't mean that with any disrespect. If they weren't given any training by the state, you shouldn't assume that anybody in the room has read the regs. Right off the bat, right? It's your job to sell it all, right? To sell yourself, to sell the value of cannabis, to sell the application, to sell your plan, all of it, right? If they don't like you, they don't buy into you, it's not happening, guaranteed. And then, to that end, there's nothing like building actual organic relationships, right? They have to like you, and they can't like you if they don't get to know you. I started this when I was still living in Los Angeles, and I was flying out and spending 10 days here every 3 months, right? And in those 10 days, I would be in the city council 3-4 days, just with regularity, right? I mean, at this point, I walk in and everybody's like, hey, Red. But it's got to be like that, because otherwise, there's no guarantees.
All right, I'm going to fast forward. Post-licensing, we've now, as an operator, gotten our license from the CRC, and we might have a location, but Mr. Mayor Carra, I'm coming to you. You were also sat on the planning board for many, many years. So what are the steps that an operator has to go through, broadly speaking, in order to actually get their store open?
I mean, so obviously once our ordinance was passed in 2021, I guess we amended it sometime in December, but that's like the first hurdle to get past the council, at least in our form of government. But once you get to the planning board, that's when the notices go out, which is a little different than ordinances. So the neighbors are notified, hey, this is coming up for a hearing. So we usually get a lot more public engagement during the planning board. We have a joint board, so planning and zoning together in Raritan. But then pretty much it's the conditions. So, we had a subcommittee of the planning board kind of pick locations that we thought were feasible for a dispensary in town. But then, and I'm sure Sarah can speak to it too a little bit, but after we made the zoning, there was very few places, I think, that were actually feasible. And, this was a new business for us. This is something we never dealt with at the zoning board. So one was the parking, I think was the biggest concern with residents. The location was off the 202, which is the main highway through our town. But the parking lot, it's a shared building, so it was sharing with an appliance store, so there was a lot of concerns with that. Oh, are they going to park on the public streets in the residential neighborhoods? Which is fine, that's what public roads for. But we get that concern a lot, and then it's, is there going to be, make sure, even though it's not allowed, we condition that you can't use any products on the property, it's not a lounge, there won't be people hanging outside. And then actually, one of the conditions we had to put on Sarah's business was the parking was limited, so her employees have to park off-site. Originally, it was at a location completely on the other side of town, but we were able to get her a closer location. We worked with New Jersey Transit, we have a parking lot for our train station. We wanted to work with her. We didn't
Kind of
want-
blocked out that moment in time out. That was a really tough month or two. But that is a good point. The town administrator is the one who really assisted putting me in touch with New Jersey Transit to help me find that parking, to help me get open more quickly. Raritan has been a really wonderful partner since day one.
Yeah, I mean, so really I would say that the hardest part is the conditions from the planning board. But I think our planning board was a little skeptical at first, but they kind of, and to this day, our former chairwoman, Debbie Thomas, best parking application we've ever seen for an application. Our engineer actually says he wishes every applicant did pretty much their parking study. So, I mean, you know, you have to get a little creative as you can hear. So, I mean, just trying to show, like, we're going to make it work. We're not here to screw the town. We want to work with the town. I think as long as you do that, you know, you have a chance of being successful in the application.
Mayor Carra, we only have a couple moments left, and I really wanted, as our local governing official up here, I really wanted you to be able to articulate to everybody that cannabis tax dollars are real. And so if you could just speak a little bit to that, and you know, I don't know if Raritan has any direct plans yet, but it would be nice for the group to hear directly from the horse's mouth.
So, on average, I think we're averaging like in our so we don't charge any sales tax on the medical.
Woo! One of the only municipalities, Raritan, that does not charge tax on medical cannabis.
What we do on the retail, typically I think we're seeing 20 to 25,000 a month, maybe around 300,000 a year. I did ask our attorney, I guess it's not legal, I wanted a rider for that revenue. But it's fine. So we've been using it for our parks. We redid a basketball court just last year. I mean, it was about 175,000. But really, I think the best way for us when we were trying to sell it was, hey, we're going to use this money. You know, it's going to be a danger to families. Well, you know what? The money's coming in, and we're actually using it to improve our parks for families and kids in town. We used it to fix our pool at that same park. So really, most of the money, I think, for us has just been on capital improvements for all of our parks. So, yeah, I think 300,000 a year has been
Well, before we wrap it up, I just want to punt to my panelists. The time went by way quicker than expected, but if anybody has anything that they would like to add in speaking about local municipalities and operations, please.
Be patient.
That is key. Knowledge is power. You have the knowledge and you'll know where to position yourself for success. If not, you can spend a lot of time just getting the information and
Yeah, to support the cannabis ecosystem, you heard cannabis tax dollars are taking care of kids' basketball courts. And no other industry will you see private business owners engaging on the level that they are with community just to start a business. And some of them, as you heard, are doing that even before they open the business, years before they open the business. And so we get social equity reports from these businesses, large and small, and we see the work that they're doing on the ground, like expungement clinics and job fairs. You have some cannabis businesses here. So even if you are not a consumer, you can be a part of the cannabis industry in ways that you just don't know yet. So pay attention and get excited and be a part of this.
Thank you, everybody.
I want to add, just for the mayor's piece, for anyone who is looking for some creativity, I think the best evidence-based strategy is going to your city, looking at the budget, line item by line item. I know it's tedious, but I promise you this is how you win. These are all things that I have done or have a team doing, because for some of the opt-in or non-opt-in, that's a good approach to strategically get them, to convince them. But for the ones that are opted in my municipality in particular, right, it's about to be election season. I had some officials calling me and asking me, as a business owner and a leader in the community, what are things that I want? And I've told them, and personally for me, Jersey City infrastructure, schools, and I want to know where my cannabis money is going. I said that right to them. You're gonna because that's great money that's being made here. We're talking about 10 dispensaries right now, projected to be do 10 million in the second largest municipality in our state. Yeah, I need to know where that money's going.
It's a good point, and I think that it's a little bit different. Raritan's 8,000 people, so very, very small. But in a larger municipality, when you are engaging with other residents and owners, it is nice for you to be able to say, this is where the money that our store is bringing in is going back to the community.
But the problem is that when you're in a large municipality, there's not always a lot of oversight from their budget, right? So the larger it is, the greater challenges it has. Jersey City already has a payroll tax. They have 1% payroll tax for anybody who does not live in the municipality. If you hire them, yes, my other business has been abiding by this for the past 3 to 4 years. And the 1% goes to the city's art fund that we have. That 1% payroll tax is only imposed if you do not have a Jersey City resident on your payroll. Now, the problem is that if there's not audits being conducted, you don't know which businesses are abiding by that and which ones aren't. We're talking about 1% payroll of all sorts of businesses in that city. But now we're looking at cannabis, which is making probably triple the amount that any small sort of business would do, right? So as those numbers are increasing, we need to drive for the responsibility for that oversight, because if you can build parks, Jersey City, we could build, whew.
You know, it's similar to, you know, the CRC holding seat hearings, right? To find out where, or to take input from the public about where the social equity excise, do you want to speak to that for one moment?
Yes, it's the bane of my existence. The social equity excise fee is a small fee, people in cultivators or manufacturers, or it's basically a tax fee that goes into a fund where the public gets to provide input on where these seed dollars are to go. They're typically earmarked for what we call impact zones, statutorily parts of the state cities that have been most impacted by cannabis prohibition. And so for 3 years, the CRC has been doing these hearings 3 times every year and produce reports. You can read our reports online right now. And those reports go to the governor and the legislator. But for 3 years, they have not allocated those funds. So follow, where are my cannabis tax dollars going? And even though it's not a whole lot of money, I mean, it's a few $1 million for me, I don't know who that's not a whole lot of money for, but government, that's not a whole lot of money to work with. But some of those earmarks are for childcare. Some of those earmarks are for reinvesting those dollars back into the businesses that are open and are struggling, because of opening a cannabis business is expensive as hell. And it is tough, and it is hard, it is difficult. But we as a state who have opened up this market, it is part of our responsibility to make sure that we are providing resources for businesses that want to succeed here in New Jersey. And so that is where the public can engage by asking the governor and asking the legislator, where are we spending these seed tax dollars according to the recommendations that the public has made.
And the public can also ask their local officials where the local tax money is going. And with that, thank you to our panelists so much for joining us. Thank you, guys. We're going to take like a 5-minute break, and then the next panel is going to get started. So I'm going to play some cool music for us in the
Started, so everyone please take your seats. Come on back into the room, we want to get the panel number 2 going. And before we get started, we want to give thanks to the USCW 360 for providing refreshments. How we achieve workforce development, economic development, social justice, social equity, and how we track and measure. So our next panelist, I didn't need any notes. Jeff Booker is the co-founder and COO of Canna Coverage Insurance. Once again, we provide insurance for the commercial business industry, as well as your core employee health benefits, and now we've added medical cannabis and psychedelics to your benefits. So bringing innovation, science, and medicine to healthcare, plant-based medicine. So with that, Jeff Booker has over 30 years of experience in the insurance industry. And when we had the conversation about getting into cannabis, it was quite comical. but it was a quick conversation. My daughter was taking a course right here at Raritan Valley Community College, but it was during COVID. So the course was at 6 p.m. Every Wednesday. So where we 6 p.m. on Wednesdays is in the kitchen. So while I'm cooking a meal, I was listening to the curriculum created by Sarah Trent. And we, just hearing about the guest speakers, the risks that are inherent to the cannabis industry, and that it's a business just like any other industry out there. So the cannabis industry needs everything. All the ancillary businesses, in addition to the core cultivation, manufacturing, dispensaries, distribution, delivery services. So it was a quick conversation to bring our expertise as insurance professionals to the cannabis industry. And there's no one that I'd rather be in business with than you, Jeff Booker. So thank you for your dedication, your commitment to building a strong team at Canna Coverage and to serving as a board member for the coalition, for NFRA, to really provide this education and opportunity for us to come together. So with that, Jeff Booker.
Thank you, Nichelle. Appreciate that. Certainly have enjoyed this ride together as we have done what we tell people to do in the industry. We basically say, a lot of people want to focus on opening a dispensary, they want to sell, they want to do plant touching, they want to deliver, all these things. And that's all fine and good. But what we did is to bring what we do already to the cannabis industry. Right? So we often tell people, do what you do, just do it with cannabis. You can lead everyone and everything. Right? So that in mind, I'm going to ask my panel to go ahead and take the stage here. We have Suzan Nickelson. First, African-American woman dispensary owner in the state of New Jersey. There. We've got Carra from the Workforce Development Board as well, here in the Raritan area. We have our local councilman from Boundbrook here. And he's going to talk to us about the municipal side of things and as a town considering opting in. So we're going to get into it, right? So it's been great. And we have Thunder Walker, all the way from Oklahoma and Texas here. Thunder is a business owner, an operator, an advocate, a patient, a caregiver, all of the above. So he has a great perspective on the industry, and Thunder is one of the leading ladies in cannabis for sure, nationally. So great to have her here in Jersey. She brought the heat with her. We appreciate that. Could have left that there, but all right, we'll take it. And then we have Jake Pinelli from UCFW, our sponsors for lunch, right? So if your belly is full, thank our friends over at the union. So again, I'm gonna have each of the panelists take a minute to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start down there at the end. Ladies first, this is on Nickelson. Give everybody 60 seconds on you and your journey and what you're doing in the space. So, Suzan.
So, welcome, Suzan Nickelson, CEO and founder of Holistic Solutions. We are the first alternative treatment center, majority owned by women and Black women in New Jersey. Started my company, my iPhone 6 Plus. Originally, our family is from Africa, by Ghana, by the way, slave trade in beautiful island of Jamaica, where my mother was a herbalist. Met my father, we were to vet, he was again divorced on vacation, so my mother was on a prominent trip with my mom's brother first sight. Came to the country in 1975 when mom started some homework. In the backyard, my father was actively working as a sheriff officer. You understand that that wasn't a pleasant experience, Mr. Cole. Fast forward to 1996, my mother was told she was working as a sheriff. That 1 year turned into 2013 when we used the Clayton to continue my mother's legacy. In 2019, we put in for an application. For 2 years, that was application until litigation. But on December 7th actually, myself along with Sarah Trent and 30 other awardees were awarded. Sweet Spot was the first, Valley Wellness was the second, and Holistic Solutions was the third out of the group of 30. Again, I started my company smoking blunt one night talking to my other half who's in finance. Anything is possible in this space, and now that we are operable, it looks about sustainability. How do we economically work together to collaborate to build markets and to make sure that this industry is founded by those who have been the most impacted by the war on drugs, and to make sure we hold our government's feet to our fire and we build a very diverse, sustainable market. I welcome you today.
Thank you very much, Suzan. The fighter, she's an advocate, businesswoman, all of the above. So next we're going to go to Councilman from Boundbrook, Kendall Lopez. Councilman, thank you for joining us today. Give the folks a little
Sure, my name is Kendall Lopez. I'm the council president of Boundbrook. And I'm on the other side. I am from a township that is strategically located, that we have additions, we have places, we have buildings, we have a growing population, a lot of new developments coming in, and we are really interested in learning and providing the new conditions, of course, for the businesses to come into our town, but we want to make sure that we have all the information so we can provide our residents, our fellow council people with all the correct information to avoid any misconceptions or any ideas that are wrong. And so that when we start, when any of these companies or businesses apply or come to us, we can provide them with a good experience and make the best that is convenient for them, for us, and for our residents. So learning is a good experience. I'm into the science area. I'm a biochemistry teacher, so I'm always interested on putting science together with the business and anything that is good for our residents in this case. Thank you.
Having walked through the journey about getting strong consideration opting in. So with that, we'll move on to Paul from the Greater Raritan Workforce Development Board, as he is the director there. So Paul, give us an intro for yourself.
So the Workforce Board services Hunterdon and Somerset counties. We're one of 17 workforce boards around the state. There are workforce boards in every state and territory in the country. We're federally and state funded. Our job is to connect businesses and employers. We offer a range of services, either both from the workforce board side as well as from our partners, including a training center. We work with Work First, Client Snap, Tenant. The federal legislation requires us to try to especially work with people with barriers of youth, disabled veterans. We have a number of services, including we just ran a large job fair in June that attracted 450 people, as well as 75 businesses. We're constantly trying to figure out how to do the best job of connecting. We have been working in the cannabis industry locally for the last 3 years. We're the first workforce board to do a job fair, and we're really happy to continue to support the growth of this particular sector in our two counties.
Build the workforce is we need, and there are two sides to that equation. We have to focus on both sides. So certainly appreciate your contributions thus far and what you will do going forward. Next, we're going to hear from Thunder Walker, our lady who brought all this hot weather. So, Thunder.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I am from the state of Oklahoma. I own a cannabis business along with my partner, who are self-funded in Oklahoma. And what's so exciting about that is that we are allowed to do so many different things in our particular state. Once we were able to achieve ownership of a dispensary and a processing license at the time, and a slight partnership with the grow, I decided I wanted to expand the knowledge that I have. My background is in real estate, I'm an appraiser. And so moving into cannabis appraising helped me a lot to be able to understand how this process works and how to show the value of the currency and how it actually affects the community and the tax-based dollars from the smoke. And so we established across the country different women and people of color that wanted to get into this industry but just really did not know how. So I was able to bring the blue space side because you cannot Google that and look at that. Basically, I wanted to find out why we were not talking to each other. All these states had all these different programs and rules and regulations, but we wouldn't talk to each other. We really wouldn't even have any conversation. And I think there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I believe that you can learn from the states that have done it right and even the states that have done it wrong. And as these particular states roll out across the country, I went ahead and did a tour. I think we're up to probably 10 states by now. Red and also blue states and also red states. As you know, Oklahoma is a red state, but our law was signed into effect and brought to the governor by a woman of color. And I was really, really excited to be able to show that there's so many different ways to be in this market. Even if you want to be in this space, you don't even have to smoke cannabis. You just have to work to help. And so I took my background in cannabis real estate. I also have a disabled daughter, so I'm a caregiver, a patient, and also a business owner. And we went on the road. And we started taking a green thread, tying the states together so we could all communicate. What I didn't know what was going to happen, and I'm so excited it did, we were able to use the shadow banning on social media. So when you get into this industry, that's something that's going to be huge for you to understand how to do. And what we were able to accomplish without even setting out to do that is once everyone started gathering and communicating across social media and using some of the same terms, it became a trend instead of something that they could shadow ban. So my goal today in coming to New Jersey is once again understanding what the market here has to offer, and then having a conversation about how we can make changes to even make it better. The cost of entry in Oklahoma was over $500, and there was no waits. There's some other states that are low like that too. There's no wait. There's no one in line. So I wanted to ask the question, as I started to go to different states, why is there a line? Why are we waiting? And so the reason why I'm here today is to actually communicate what can we do to make this better. What can we do to shorten the line, get more people in this industry, and to benefit not only the plant, but the community.
Last but certainly not least, we're going to go to our good friend Jake Pinelli from USCW. Everybody knows the good folks over there like you, Gaetano, and many others. Jake's part of the team, and they were our lunch sponsor today. So we're thankful for them and all they do throughout the state. So Jake, give us a few words.
Hi there, my name is Jake Pinelli. I work for the UFCW. If the lunch was bad, please come and yell at me. So we represent 1.4 million members nationwide and into Canada. Out of that, in cannabis, specifically in New Jersey, we represent nearly 1,500 workers, making sure that they have a voice in the workplace, that they have a secure contract, that their safety issues are being heard, and that includes workers in the group, actually. We're happy to represent the folks over at Valley Wellness and the folks down at Holistic Solutions. Both Suzan and Sarah have been wonderful to work with. I'm very happy to be up here today, and we're going to talk about some social equity. I got some notes, and we're going to go through it.
We need Jake from Third Colony, we love Jake from USCW, right? So,
stay tuned tonight.
Thank you very much. So let's dive into it. So this particular panel is going to focus on cannabis tax revenue and what municipalities can do with it, how it can be effective in being an economic engine in some of these towns and locations and municipalities. And we're also going to talk about social justice and how we track and measure our responsibilities there. So I want to start with Suzan as our trailblazer there here in Jersey to talk about her experience and what it was like with the municipality. I know that wasn't your first stop, as I recall. There were a couple others, and but you landed where you landed. So maybe talk to the folks about what it was like to develop that municipal relationship and how the tax revenue conversation contributed to your being able to open?
So we are located in a beautiful township of Waterford, also known as Atco. We used to have a raceway. So it's in the heart of South Jersey at the end of Camden County at the cusp of Atlantic. Our first journey started at another town in 2019. And it was really getting out to meet the municipality. I come from state government, I spent 24 years there at high levels doing employment litigation. And I also spent a lot of time doing community organization. One part of my life, I was the assistant DCP&P area director, formerly known as Life Responsible for those who are 40. And again, I've always served for the most vulnerable. So in raising money for individuals and then pivoting to cannabis, I was a familiar face. I could bring individuals together. I was educated about the ordinances. So I would also go and educate them. I would ask for meetings to educate them about what they had the ability to do and not do. And currently, my recommendations would be for townships to be very strategic. Everyone is looking at the big cannabis boom for economic dollars. But if you oversaturate your market, if you overcap, if you allow unlimited licenses, you are setting your township up for complete failure. Cannabis is like any other industry. You cannot put 12 ShopRites on the same street and expect that there's going to be sustainability in that market. So again, we need to be strategic to say, hey, what do our constituents want? Are our constituents voting in at a high rate that they want cannabis in our community? If that's the case, there needs to be an ordinance focused on that. And also too, what is our capacity as a municipality? And once you understand your capacity, that's where social equity and diversity comes in. Before you give out any other licenses, you should be looking at your local residents that want to start businesses and opportunities. And then you should be looking at those that are diverse, minority, veterans. A lot of individuals don't have capital to get into the market, so if you're looking to let in another operator, that should be in support of a local operator. We build this industry by we all rising together. And unfortunately, you will see an oversaturation in the market in certain areas, but I encourage those who are still waiting, still looking at data, to talk to the municipalities, talk to the mayors who are rolling it out. There is safety, there's accountability, there are safe products being put in the market. But more importantly, having the ability to educate. I think the tax norm is not really a key for a lot of people. People are not just going to opt into cannabis just for profit. Many people are opting in making sure that there's going to be safety accompanied with profit. And then also talking about the things that are lacking. Being able to say, listen, your resources are not really sourced right. You don't have a pantry, you don't have any general community resources. If there is something, an emergency in town, you're going to have to tax your residents. Why not create a vehicle that all residents can get behind and support? Let it be philanthropic, and that's how you get buy-in. So for us, we had to kiss a lot of frogs before we ended up in the beautiful township of Waterford. But in that, the journey was impactful, because without that, we wouldn't have had the sophistication and navigation to understand that cannabis is a business. A lot of people will set up to fail, and not because of the intentionality of it, because of the system. And collaborative economics and working with municipalities that have a willingness to work with business owners and see their long-term sustainability is really where the market is.
That's excellent. I mean, that's right from the front line, from somebody who walked, the path and was able to make it happen. And I was there on opening day when Suzan opened her doors, and thoroughly enjoyed that. And it's a proud moment for the state and for the community. So certainly appreciate and applaud you again for all you have done thus far. Wanted to pivot to Paul with respect to workforce development in a brand new industry like this. What is your organization doing to help bridge the gap between perhaps the academic environment and the industry? Talk to us about how you're trying to bring these folks together and make sure you have employees for all this happens.
It's been interesting because one of the things that we have available, as I mentioned, are job fairs. And we had been working with one very large grower who initially we were able to help direct people to their business. they no longer need our assistance. But we have been working with some of the smaller businesses, providing one-offs. We try to make sure too, for some of our partners who are working directly with clients, there was some hesitancy at first because the way it rolled out in New Jersey, because it still isn't legal on the federal side, there wasn't clear direction from the state at first about how this was all going to work. Some of our partners were a little hesitant to direct people to this industry, but we have over the last several years bridged that gap. And one of the things though that we always try to make sure, we want to ensure that people that we're working with, the clients that we're working with, normally are unemployed or underemployed. We want two things. We want them to direct them to career-sustaining wage job positions. So we want to make sure whoever we're working with that they're offering wages that are competitive and that offer a pathway for growth. We also want to make sure for some of our, particularly for this industry, that we want to not only attract people who maybe are interested on the growth side or the retail side, but also understand that these are businesses that need a range of talent to support a business. They need accountants, they need lawyers, or whatever. It's just not the growth side. So that is also some of the education that we're trying to do with our job seekers, so that they understand that there are many different ways that you can work in this industry. And also, we also always talk about the idea that we want to support people who may have transferable skills, that they're able, that whatever they were doing in one industry, the basic skills that they have, the good job, the ability to learn, the ability to work cooperatively, that is something that any industry needs. But so if you have those solid skills, maybe you could transfer to this industry as long as you understand what is required of the business. Did I answer your question?
You certainly did. We appreciate that, Paul, and it's hard for this industry to grow in the way that it should if we don't have the appropriate talent. Right? So it's very difficult to do that. So we appreciate what you're doing there. You pivot to a resident elected official, Councilman Lopez, as your city is looking at opting in, you're considering that, and you're trying to gather information. I think it'd be helpful for those assembled here who may already have made that decision in their own minds. Help us understand maybe your process and sort of how you're navigating your colleagues on council and others, and talk about that process a little bit. So we meet others here as well who are about to walk down that path and maybe can learn about how to navigate the conversation.
Yeah, I think it's like a chain of learning, because I'm hoping to learn from people that have gone through the process. And again, I'm trying also to provide information to my fellow council members, to members of the community, to stakeholders, important leaders in the community. First of all, for misconceptions, because that's the first thing I have found to be the first barrier. So provide the correct information to eliminate those misconceptions, and then create a more friendly environment for the process. Second of all, we have to provide information about the potential benefits for the town, right? Either employment or capital growth, like Carra was saying, or what is that revenue going to be used to? But also how we can be good hosts for the industry as well, right? So these are several things together that we want to work on to do it right. So again, learning from the other ones, and then hopefully we can teach or share with the ones that are behind us. That's the whole process where we are on right now. I don't want to start something just because I want to start it and then something goes wrong. So I'd rather wait and do it right. Not for years, right? That's not the idea.
But if you do things right, it's going to take a shorter time probably. So I'd rather wait a few months and have everything ready than just to precipitate and then you have to go back and correct and go, so that's where we are. So totally open to suggestions, advice, anything that we can learn. It's more than welcome.
Appreciate that, Councilman. It's a journey, right? And we have to educate. And, we're trying to undo decades of misinformation and reefer madness and all these other things. But somebody said, when you know better, right, you do better. Well, we certainly know better. We've known better for a long time. A lot of folks up the food chain politically have kind of stuck their heads in the sand and all of that. We have known for decades what the truth has always been, right? So now we have a responsibility to do better, as I said. I want to go to Jake. Jake, your union is forward-thinking. It's progressive in the way that you all move. I mentioned some of your leaders and some of your colleagues there. You guys do great work. You mentioned in your early part of your remarks that you were interested in sort of getting into the social equity conversation and the role that the union plays in that. Give us some thoughts on what your organization is doing to make sure that folks have access to quality wages and safe workplace and those types of things.
So when it comes to social equity, one of the things that the union believes is that it's not just for cannabis workers, it's for all workers. Everybody in the working class needs to be able to come up. So we offer a couple different things. On top of just giving you a say in your workplace and a direct say and a direct vote, we also have things like college programs where it's discounted college for you and your immediate family up to a master's degree. We also offer free language courses in case you live in an area where you want to learn another language, or if you just want to learn another language in general. It's affordable health care so that your co-pays aren't, $400 for a specialist visit, but instead maybe something like $50. It's taking all of this and turning it into a way to uplift the working class. And as far as social equity is concerned too, something that we started talking about more on the union level is the imprisoned population still. Nationwide, we still have people in prison for these felony charges where it's all weed related. They're stuck doing forced labor for 2 cents an hour, 40 cents an hour, and they're making food that we eat on our tables. All of those people are being left behind at the moment. They cannot stay in prison while we are out here still talking and advocating for just general cannabis businesses. We have to find a way to get them all out. So at the union level, one of the things that we would like to do, I know there's a couple small organizations that are doing it, but is a prison to workplace pipeline. So those people who are stuck in prison right now, they should have access to programs that give them education, workplace training, all that kind of stuff, and allow them to enter a good union job at the end of the day or at the end of their sentence, or if it gets excommunicated or pardoned, whatever it happens to be, depending on what that charge was. But we as a union, and me personally, we don't believe anybody should be in jail for drugs.
Thank you, Jake. We certainly appreciate that and all the union does. And you guys have been stalwart leaders and pushing the conversation forward, making sure that there's equity with respect to opportunities for these jobs and that sort of thing. So we appreciate.
Collaboratively, $1.3 million we were able to track and trace and went directly back into the community of Waterford through our build-out, through our personnel hiring. All of our contractors either came from Waterford, Atco, Berlin, or Superville, or Hamilton. Those are the main areas that kind of feed our general network. So those were our brand ambassadors. Those were the first people to talk about, we got this job, we were able to win this biggest contract for many of those small businesses and companies in their lifetime to be able to do cannabis work. So they were able to help with the destigmatization. For us, having a local hiring plan, we committed to hiring 40% of the local community. We knocked the rocks off. I think it's like 80% of individuals that work at Holistic really come from the local community. And then there are a small 20% that come from maybe Burlington County and Gloucester County that are not within our local catchment. Some of the challenges have been really keeping the feet to the fire to make sure that we have diversity in our contracts. It's easy to provide a contract, to provide an opportunity for someone within your network, but to continue to challenge individuals to say, no, that's not the commitment that we made to this project. This project really has to be something different. And in that spirit of it, making sure that economically, we always talk about advocating social justice. I'm an immigrant to this country. Capitalism is real. How we feed our families is real. So putting dollars into households is that connection. So we're not going to walk the talk, we're actually going to do the talk. And also to collaboratively with incarceration. Both of my nephews were under me and they were incarcerated during the period of time when I was building out my store. Both of my nephews, not for recurring crimes, but because of their usage while on probation. They both tested positive for cannabis and were recommitted for another 1.5 sentence, just for having a dirty urine, not for any crime that they committed. They were blessed to be in the same halfway house that was in Cumberland County, where they stayed together. In that, helping them expunge some of their jackets because some of their crimes did not fit fully into the jacket. Maybe one of them had something else other than what they were supposed to have. But how many individuals that I went to and talked to that was like, hey, listen, when I came out, I'm making a job. And then talking to communities such as Waterford to say, how do we really strategically talk about incarcerated? I don't know how many people have ever been to a jail, stood in line, checked themselves in, sat with someone who could not communicate or have an opportunity to do. You know, we talk about the incarceration population, but again, you have an opportunity. Our New Jersey governor just did an act of clemency. Clemency is great, but it's not really enough. There are so many individuals, such as far as legal services, we have great expungement work that's happening now, individuals providing pro bono work. We should have captured the state. If we want to get into the space of cannabis, there should be mandatory pro bono work that goes back to the least and most harmed in these communities. And that way, again, we're building a collaborative, sustainable, but more importantly, a network of integrity. So again, Waterford is not only a shining model, I know it's happening throughout the state, but again, it's through your own vigilance as an operator to make sure that that work is actually happening on the ground.
In New Jersey. Thunder, I want to go to you with the same question. We talk about how you chose your community, how what your relationship was with the folks there, maybe some of the conversations around having you come there and what they're looking for from you, and maybe talk about how you, connect back with them and talk about, we said we were going to do this, and this is what we're doing, right? So I'm curious as to that conversation for you.
Great. Everyone that decided to register and come out today had a couple of questions on your mind. Whether you're deciding to open your own business, or you currently have a business, or whether you're deciding, should this be in my community? The Smoke Currency Tour really helped a lot of communities answer those particular questions. We had 4 activations. The first one was called Weed Moms, which we did in New Jersey. And basically that was empowering women that are mothers that currently work in the cannabis space and or use cannabis. The reason why that was so important is because that particular person is a voter. Most likely she's going to vote in all of the elections. She also handles the family budget, and she handles the education of the children. So we wanted to empower them to understand what cannabis was about and why it should be openly used in your particular state with the caveat of education. The second one we had was the C, and the C was for men, for mental health and wellness. And so we gathered together men in the industry to speak about what that would be like, to either work in the industry or use cannabis, or if they had some legal issues based off of cannabis. It was very, very informative for the community. And a lot of people were like, wait a moment, why would we be talking to me? Well, believe it or not, everyone is affected. If a man has mental health issues, his wife, girlfriend, his children, his parents, people that he works with, they're all affected. But one of my favorite activations was the public library. And why that was so important is because there's a lot of communities where people just do not have the money to enter into this industry because they're thinking that it's going to cost a whole lot more than auxiliary business. But at the public library, you will find information that you can start your own business and learn about the cannabis space. So we literally travel across the country, including New Jersey, New York, Michigan, several states, to get people truly educated on why this plant should be accepted and removing the stigma. We also went all the way to Hawaii, which was really, really interesting. What I want to say to everyone that came here today, with whatever desires you had at that very moment, I want you to be able to leave with something very significant. Before I got up on stage, there was a person in the audience came to me and he said, hey, my business is about to open, and I used the ideals that you gave me when I talked to you the first time you were here. And I really appreciated that moment because I want you to leave with something today. Even the people that's up on the panel. It's very important to understand that this is a money-producing plant, but it's more than that. It's also about cleaning up the environment, and so we were able to teach about using hemp and other products to change the soil and reprogram the soil to remove some of the chemicals that were in the soil that they could never grow anything on, but yet still once they planted hemp or they planted cannabis, the soil was good again. We were able to activate the public library, especially in a lot of small rural areas where the job rates are so low, the education rates are so low, but there's this huge building that's sitting there that's being funded by the city and by the state that wasn't being used. And then we were able to, lastly, educate the families and create a sense of community. And why that's so important, when we talk about physical dollars, I can name that off, but I am talking about the community building that's important. So when you see a dispensary, a processor, or a grow that's actually out working in the community and building those relationships, that's a different type of currency. That's your social currency. And so we were able to raise the social currency in those communities to get people to be in the room together that would sometimes would never want to be in the room together. One of the things that you're going to have to understand is that as this plant becomes legal across the country, you're going to see that the competition is going to be great. And that's the American way. This is an American product. It's built right here. It's grown right here. And so I want to encourage you to understand that it's not just about the economic dollar. It's also about community and community building that's going to be important to you. And so the dispensary should act almost like your neighborhood farm or your beauty shop or your nail salon or your barber shop. You should want to create that relationship. So like most men here, once you find your perfect barber, you do not leave him, right? And that's the way I envision the cannabis space. And it's the one thing that brings all of us together. So I measure not only in raising capital for Proud Mary, which is the name of our dispensary, but also the Thunder Walker experience, which is how we raise social awareness and social capital. And one of the things that is so important for you came here to find out some information, is that you leave with your questions answered. So you want to make sure that you stick with that, and it's not just about us on the panel, but also about you as the individual that's going to represent your community.
Thank you, Thunder. Appreciate that. And you know, it's all about perspective. And as Thunder said, everybody came here looking for something, right? You could have spent your Saturday, outside doing things, etc. But you came here, right? Here, right? So there was a why that you were here. So great advice from Thunder to think about what that was and make sure that you get your question answered, and whatever that was, whatever the information you're looking for was. Because it's critical that folks in elected office those in the industry, those in government, et cetera, all come together to help the industry thrive and survive. As I said earlier in some of my comments, one of the things that we've told people to do is to, if you're kind of curious right now, what is this? What's going on with this, etc. That's fine. You got to start somewhere. But eventually you'll become kind of serious, right? When you determine what it is that you would like to do and focus on in the industry. And you don't rush that process. Don't rush it. Make sure it's right and it's on point. A lot of opportunity. So what I wanted to do is just go popcorn down the line here. We'll start with Jake. Give folks 60 seconds on a parting thought or a concept that you'd like folks to think about as they head home later on today.
So I guess a concept I would like you guys to think about is how can we actually use cannabis acts to enact change in the local community? Does that look like establishing trade schools that actively recruit women, people of color, LGBTQ people, Native people, giving them skills to actually go out in the workforce and join a union, get well-paying jobs, healthcare, all that? How would you, as the individual, improve your community? That's what I would like you to think about. If you are a worker in this space, we're always here for you. If you're an owner in this space, we'd love to work together and collaborate. Unions aren't supposed to be an adversarial relationship. We're supposed to be able to work together. And don't leave cannabis behind.
And Jake, under any final comments from you?
Well, my background is real estate, so I really want to challenge each and every one of you to jump into this industry. It does not cost anything really to get started. And how can I do that? Well, we've already talked about the physical real estate. We've already talked about having to have land to grow or buildings to have dispensaries and retail shops and all of that. But let's say you only have $30, right? And you want to get into this space. You can still get in with the virtual business. And what that virtual business is, go on GoTag, Fix, whoever, and create a website. Start buying up those virtual properties. And you can turn around and resell them. We actually did that a couple of times with some different IP addresses. We were able to get that done. So if you have a name that you really think is interesting, go ahead and register it, hold on to it, and then put it up for sale. And once you do that, there's going to be someone that comes along and they want to buy that particular virtual property, virtual cannabis real estate. And so one of the ones that we sold was Amber and Elixir. And I think I paid $25 for it because GoDaddy was having this huge sale, for a penny a month for the first 12 months. And we ended up turning it for $1,000 in less than a week. Start somewhere. You can get into this space and you can hold on to that virtual real estate because someone's coming and they're going to do their whole business plan, they're going to get their logo, and then they're going to go and try to find it. And you got it, and it's yours, and they have to buy it from you.
You've done it before.
So, for 35 years before I transitioned to the workforce board, I was the local newspaper editor. And I'm really big on doing research, understanding all the resources that are out there. There are so many resources that the state offers. Both through the Cannabis Commission, there is an office now within the state that helps businesses, people who are interested in reform. The Workforce Board, we have lots of resources that we can connect you to, small business centers, or there's a small business network that you can collaborate with. There are so many resources that you can just find by starting on a computer or your phone or whatever, and just not being afraid to use those resources to the best of your knowledge and to really hook up into network. The other thing that I would urge you to do if you are concerned about what's going on in your government or you want your town to be able to promote this is to show up at a local council meeting or a county government meeting. The commissioners in both counties meet twice a month, and they have open time where you can just talk. And I grew up at Watergate, just one of the reasons I became a journalist, and I was so used to just attending meetings. And when I first started covering meetings in '83, there would always be a line of people at a meeting who wanted to just ask their county government something and to hold them accountable. Now, normally when you go to a meeting, for the most part, there's nobody there except a couple of people who are conspiracy theorists, and they always are talking about the same thing. But they're not people who actually want to ask questions. And I think, for any, we have to be advocates and hold the people who are elected accountable to what we want them to do. So those are the two things I really want to leave you with. Not being afraid to hold councilmen accountable, but also doing your own research and understanding all the resources that are available.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Any parting thoughts for the group?
Sure, kind of a continuation of what we were saying. To me, the key concept here at the stage where I am is awareness. Being a science person, I have to do my research first to get the right information based on the real data, so that the people that have all of this fake information or theories, I can rebate and I could explain based again on data that is real. So that's why I'm doing my research to be ready. And again, welcome to any of the council sessions. Totally right, we only have the same two people all the time, maybe three. And I know them by name. I was telling some people they're wearing last names, but it's always so and so and so. And always complaining about the same thing, even if it's fake. So that's why I'm doing research. That's why I want to make people aware, my fellow council members, community activities like discussions or forums like these, anything that you could do to make people informed about the real benefits, the process and everything will be great. So again, I'm going to continue my research, learning, so that when the time is right and when some of these brave entrepreneurs decide to contact us, we're ready for them. Thank you.
Certainly not least, our trailblazer down there, Suzan.
I think I'm going to sum up the panel. With towns that have opted out currently, continue to do your research, but also learn from what's already been created. Go to some dispensaries, go to some cultivation facilities. It is happening on a wide level successfully in our great state of New Jersey. There are no town failures today, and that's because towns have put intentionality in it and great thought. Additionally, also look at the constriction that's happening with state and local governments. Many municipalities have had constrictions regarding your educational funds that have been decreased in communities and are looking to offset and reset those tax dollars. Many of us are homeowners in this community, and those taxes come right back to us as real estate taxes. We live in the great state of New Jersey, and we pay the most outrageous real estate tax. Why are we not looking at state systems of how we use our cannabis dollars and lowering our tax burdens? Again, looking at our municipalities where we have home rule, which is a wonderful thing. But look at it as a community wish list. If you ever had an opportunity to rewrite something, why not use cannabis dollars correctly in a way that's collaborative? So again, for the towns that have opted out, there are great things happening and will continue to happen around your towns. And as your towns continue to face budget crisis and constraints, you're going to look creatively for a market or industry to sustain yourselves. And cannabis is your great collaborator. And I would welcome many operators here to visit our store, come to South Jersey, talk to our mayors who are Republican strongholds that are doing it well within the straight Democratic strongholds, independent strongholds, but again, conservative, thoughtful individuals who are putting out safe products. And it's been a pleasure.
I don't know about everybody else, but that certainly sounded like a campaign speech, but keep it up.
Well, New Jersey Cannabis Equity Association, soon to be founded, would love to talk to you about not a campaign, but just a collaborative vehicle to all work collaboratively together.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you to our panel. You've done a great job and we appreciate your attention. How we handle that diligent loss. Michelle?
Another round of applause for the candidates at Revenue Now. Thank you so much, everyone. And Thunder, special thanks to you for flying in from Oklahoma. Thank you for being here in New Jersey. So becoming more aware of the medicinal benefits of the plant, New Jersey has medical cannabis programs designed to allow patient access, but the stigma from the war on drugs remains. And the adult use market has taken a chunk out of the medical market. In this session, we'll explore how cannabis medicine is changing the landscape for healthcare providers, the implications of rescheduling, and will policy change impact employer organizations, especially in the public sector. So before we get started, I'm going to have my guests introduce themselves. We'll start with Abdul Roberts.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. My name is Abdul Roberts. I'm an attorney at Jolly & Jolly Law Firm. We are based out of Dominion, New Jersey, with an office also in New Brunswick. Prior to working in this firm, I worked specifically with medical providers and representing them and in all of their spaces. And then before that, I was a member of the United States Army JAG Corps, where I represented soldiers who were afflicted by using marijuana or other criminal activity as well. So that's what I currently do. You can check out our table. You'll see my big banner. Keep code pod.
Let's just go straight down the line, Wesley.
Hey, it's Wesley again. I'm the Director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion for the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission.
Hi everyone, my name is Rivera. I am with the Cannabis Training Academy, which is under the Business Action Center, and it's a social equity-driven initiative made by with cannabis tax dollars, and is to help those that want to apply for a cannabis license. And it's an online technical assistance program that should be launching this fall.
Suzan Nickelson, CEO of Holistic Solutions, also one of the retail instructors for the technical assistance program. I'm very excited about that. Also CEO of Idle Daughters, which is consulting, and also recently co-chair of the New Jersey Cannabis Equity Association, which is a diverse group of operators, plant, non-touching professionals, paraprofessionals, and unions coming together, all to work toward legislative and social equity collaborations.
Ken Wolski, I'm a registered nurse. I've been an RN for 48 years here in the state of New Jersey. I have a wide variety of clinical experiences. I've worked in psychiatric hospitals, both public and private. I've worked in intensive care units and coronary care units in Central Jersey and Center City, Philadelphia. And I worked for 22 years with the New Jersey Department of Corrections. In 2003, I co-founded the Coalition for Medical Marijuana in New Jersey, and I've been executive director for the last 21 years there. And we were very instrumental in all aspects of cannabis reform here in New Jersey. And in 2010, I was one of the founding board members of the American Cannabis Nurses Association, which is a wonderful association for nurses. And I was recently appointed chairman of the Trent's Cannabis Advisory Committee. So we evaluate applications for cannabis businesses in the city of Trent, and we make our recommendations to the city council.
Hi, I'm Don Parisi. That means Ken has been doing this for 21 years. 21 years. He's been advocating for cannabis legalization. It's amazing.
That's not true. Actually, I started in 1966.
Oh, very good.
That's a long time, either way.
Thank you.
I've been in the insurance industry for 30 years. And in 2015, I became a board member of one of the first integrated cannabis companies in New Jersey. Back then we were a nonprofit. It was called National Care Foundation. Down in Ann Arbor. Ended that and then decided to start Cannabis Health. think we'd be a little bit more about that today, because it has a lot to do with medical outcomes. We're about, we recognize how important medicine is, but it's important only for people who can afford it. So we created this organization to try to help that out.
Thank you, and welcome my panel. Okay, we're going to kick it off with Anna. Along with the creation of man and woman, God created an ecosystem of plant-based food and medicine to sustain the health and wellness of the human race. Cannabis has been a long-standing history, from the Bible with the anointing of cannabis oils to world wars, where General George Washington describes in his diary the use of hemp and cannabis for horses to keep them calm, right, during the cannons going off, to keep them calm, and the soldiers to rub on their feet as they marched hundreds of miles with no Nikes. So to eventually in the 1900s, when the Harlem Renaissance normalized cannabis into culture and music, cannabis became a racialized weapon against black and brown people that led to mass incarceration of millions across the country. The prohibition of cannabis not only took away medicine from the people, but also from the pharmaceutical industry that was utilizing it as medicine and research and development. We now know that cannabis is known to 72 conditions we now know that cannabis impacts 72 conditions and illnesses and has much less side effects than prescription drugs. So the endocannabinoid system was discovered over 30 years ago. Anna, here's the question. Please describe for us the endocannabinoid system and how cannabis interacts with our body's regulatory systems. Take us to school, Anna.
So it's discovered in 1988 that the CMMNJ receptor plays a critical role in disease regulation, and it has the ability to help restore balance when injury or illness occurs. When healthy, the ECS creates a background signal that all is well and allows other systems to complete their function. It also helps us stay out of flight or fight, which affects our nervous system. So cannabis supplements this system to help us stay in a state of balance and well-being. So not all of us have a balanced ECS, and this is called the clinical endocannabinoid deficiency. And it manifests like chronic pain, anxiety, migraines, depression, and even inflammation. And this system is comprised of three components. The first is endocannabinoids, and they're cannabis-like compounds produced in the human body, and they act like a key. The second component is endocannabinoid receptors. They act like a lock, and they're all over our body. They conduct different functions in different parts of our bodies with the same goal of maintaining balance. Now there are two main receptors. One is called CB1, and this one's found mostly in the brain. This was discovered in 1988 and cloned in 1990. When activated in the brain, it modulates the way the nerves respond to our signals. The second one is called CB2, and it's mostly found in our immune system, and this was discovered in 1993. And a CB2 defect is associated with bone loss, and a CB2 expression increases with inflammation and injury, which makes it a great anti-inflammatory. The third component are enzymes, and they're responsible for making and breaking down endocannabinoids. And regarding homeostasis, this ties back to the ECS, as its main function is to establish balance. And this is defined as an organism's ability to create and maintain harmony and balance in response to external and internal environmental changes. It's an important function of the human body, and failure can cause illness and even death. Homeostatic mechanisms must function in concert for us to heal and live. And homeostatic failure is a contributing factor to chronic diseases such as diabetes or even renal failure. So choosing the right cannabinoids can assist in a stabilizing homeostasis. And that's why it's important for doctors to be educated on medical cannabis, so patients will have a more natural alternative to incorporate in their healing journey. Now, phytocannabinoids are also involved because they bind to ECS receptors. And they're active constituents in the cannabis plant, and they act as an insecticide and fungicide on the actual plant. And they're created in trichomes, which are the multi-resinous plants that are mostly on the flowers. And there are about 120 cannabinoids so far. And a fun fact, my botany teacher in Thomas Jefferson University, Dr. Mahmoud El-Soli, he discovered about half of these cannabinoids. Yeah. So he's still a researcher at the University of Mississippi. And back then, only the DEA was authorized to do research there, so he was involved in a lot of discoveries. And we happened to also work with Dr. Raphael Mechoulam. If you guys don't know, he was the first to discover and synthesize THC in the 60s, and he was also part of discovering the endocannabinoid system. Thank you.
Thank you for taking us to school on that, Anna. Test at Reddington Brewery at 5 o'clock. Get your tickets over here, $25 to get your goodie bags from Play 9. Thank you. So, Nurse Ken Wolski, please explain how medical cannabis can transform their approach to medicine as an alternative to prescription drugs that may be highly addictive or include adverse effects leading to a downward spiral of patient health. And now that the adult market is open, why should patients maintain their medical cannabis cards?
Good questions, thank you. First of all, I find it really remarkable that an entirely new system in the human body that takes its place alongside the circulatory system, the respiratory system, the musculoskeletal system was discovered only 30 years ago. You know, textbooks have to be rewritten, medical schools have to do, the educational programs have to be redone in these programs and in nursing schools. That all has to be redone. And for the most part, it's not, because there's still a lot of stigma associated with this. So this is a remarkable discovery of the endocannabinoid system, and it plays an incredible role in the human body. I mean, as Anna was saying, it can affect every other system in the human body, and its role is to produce homeostasis or balance. And yet people are ignoring this. I made a recommendation to the Cannabis Regulatory Commission at its last meeting that there be mandatory education for all prescribers, all physicians, and anyone with prescriptive privileges in New Jersey to have education on the endocannabinoid system as a requirement for continued licensure in the state.
Here, here.
That's how important I believe this is, and for people to know about it.
Clap it up, clap it up.
And yes, it can replace really dangerous medicines. You know, we all know about the dangers of opioids. We're in an opioid crisis resulting in thousands of deaths of Americans, you know, every year. And yet here is an alternative that has never produced a single death from overdose, is cannabis. And the most common reason that cannabis is used is for pain control. Pain control. It's that's the most common reason it's used in the United States. And you know, people think, well, I don't use opioids. I just use Tylenol. The main ingredient in Tylenol is acetaminophen. And acetaminophen is the leading cause of liver failure in the United States.
Ouch.
Just because it's available, you know, without a prescription in a pharmacy, you can buy as much as you want, doesn't mean it's safe, and it's certainly not safer than cannabis. And that goes with for a lot of other medications too. Why should we continue to have our medical marijuana program ID card, even though now marijuana is legal for adult use? Well, you know, at our coalition, we were founded in 21 years, and we did not take a position on legalization of cannabis until 2014, and we finally said, no, we do support legalization because it's the best way to get this essential medicine to the most people. Now, lot of people are dropping out of the medical marijuana program, mostly because of the high physician fees that physicians charge. But there are important reasons for keeping an ID card. One is employment protection. You have some protections depending on your job, whether you're an applicant for employment or you're subject to a drug test during your employment. If you can produce a medical marijuana ID card, there are some protections available to you depending on your job. It makes your discussions with your doctor more legitimate. If you can say that, no, I am in the medical marijuana program and a physician recommended marijuana for me. And it also, as I said, I'm in the Cannabis Advisory Committee in Trent. Trent just recently introduced an ordinance that's going to forbid public consumption of cannabis, smoking or vaporizing cannabis anywhere in the city of Trenton in public. It's going to institute a series of fines like $250 to $500 to $1,000 for a third offense for smoking cannabis in public. I went to the city council and I said, no, the Jay Honig law says that marijuana can be smoked anywhere that cigarettes are smoked in public. And so they put an amendment on that bill and said, if the policeman sees you using marijuana, he can ask you for your ID card. Well, that's all very well and good, but now, of course, there are other problems with that law, too. Many people gave up their ID card, many people never had the diagnosis, or never bothered to get a diagnosis of a medical or mental health condition that would allow them to use cannabis. They just know that when they use it, it improves their life. So, many people are using marijuana medically without the ID card. So that's another reason to keep the marijuana ID card, despite the fact that it's now legal.
Thank you for that comprehensive answer. So, Ken, you're saying after wearing these boots all day, I don't have to take Tylenol, I can just rub some cannabis cream on my feet and feel better?
It's very effective topically also. I used marijuana since 1966, and at one point I said, I've used it, I've smoked it, I've vaped it, I've eaten it, but one thing, I've got to draw the line somewhere. I'm not going to smear it all over my body. I'm throwing the line.
I like that.
But then I got a case of tennis elbow that nothing would help until I tried cannabis oil on my forearm, and that was the only thing that helped. Now I'm a firm believer in the topical uses for medical cannabis also.
Topicals for everyone from Plate 9. Not really, but Wesley McWhite, achieving the balance of the medical cannabis market versus the adult use market is challenging. The New Jersey Cannabis Program at its height had 127,000 patients and now has significantly decreased to 76,550 patients as of June 15 to the adult use market. How has the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission responded to address this issue?
Yeah, I think the first thing, just to put it in context for everyone, that states that have transitioned from medical to include now adult use have seen dips in their roles. And so while we did not anticipate it dropping so quickly, it is something that we wanted to prepare for. So in response to that was a part of our last meeting on its surface is talking to leaders in the medical marijuana space, inviting folks like Wolski, like Nichelle, and those minorities for medical marijuana to talk to us publicly and openly and give us recommendations on how we increase our roles. Another response is some of the work that I'm really, really proud of Glenn Walker over there at our CRC table. Raise your hand, Glenn. Glenn comes to the Office of Diversity and Inclusion from the medical marijuana program when it was at the Department of Health. and he was in that division for 5 years. So he came over to the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and I know we needed to pay particular attention to the medical community, and so we have moving medical clinics for individuals to get their ID card in person if they're in Trenton. They can renew in person, caregivers can sign up in person, because we want it to be in the medical community and outside, and not just in our four walls, because people sometimes do need hands-on help in just completing the process for a medical cannabis card. We do not get a whole lot of participation, but every time we do get it, our medical patients that come to our clinics are so thankful that we are in the community doing that. I mean, with one last medical clinic that we had, a newly diagnosed senior citizen is a cancer patient, and this was his first medical card ever in the state of New Jersey. So those are some of the things that we're doing. There are other things that we can do that are in our purview, and some things that are not in our purview, and that includes just talking to your legislators about home grow, more access to the plant, talking about passing bills that would allow insurance companies to reimburse people that for their medical marijuana. So there are things that we can do inside the CRC. There's some things that we're going to need to collaborate on. There's some things that the legislators could do as well.
Thank you for your continued commitment there, Wesley, and the CRC. And you too, Glenn, over there. Thank you, Glenn. Suzan, as the founder and CEO of Holistic Solutions, an adult use and medical dispensary, what has been the business experience and the balance of patient versus adult use, and do you believe in the necessity of both markets?
Great question. So we intentionally came into the market as a medical company. We converted our license afterward. So again, our youngest patient is 2 years old and our oldest patient is 96. So we see a wide range of diversity that comes into the store. I see a large population of mothers and parents coming in looking for alternate pathways outside of opiates for their children and other things that are really detrimental to them for a long time, physical health. We see a large senior population looking to wean off of their opiate use and do something a little bit more plant-based. So in that, I see the comedy of both sides working cooperatively together. There's a large amount of stigma for parents who want to use cannabis as an alternative. So what we do is we provide a safe and welcoming space. So we hold workshops, community mixers, we're going to bring vast groups of people together. And then parents who have children with oral injuries, also long-time cancer, we teach them to use products such as squeeze, dilators to make tinctures and juice, to be able to take a water bottle, to be able to put plant-based medicine that is non-distinguishable, so that child will have a sense of normalcy, but to be able to medicate. In those opportunities, we bring cannabis to those who have been, I would say, least forgotten. Black and brown communities that are more often given a prescription than something more plant-based. Again, most of our communities, we live in desert warehouses that we don't have nutritional things that we can go to. Grocery stores, regular places to get basic nutrients. So again, just kind of reversing that stigma. Because again, individuals who are in pain and want to relieve it, they want real relief. And if we do our diligence as a community and as New Jersey at 5, again, mandating those who provide prescriptions also take mandated courses. As attorneys in the room, you have something called CLEs. In order to renew your license every year, I see a dramatic amount of my lawyer friends renewing their CLEs. As far as medical physicians in the state, this is a great way for making sure that there's competency and to reduce the stigma. Because again, many individuals, if you're coming in and you want to have an opportunity of something plant-based, maybe that's the vehicle and option. And then reducing your own judgments. So in that, we find that the two are still slowly meeting, but also increasing. Home grow, I'm going to say it again loud and proud. It should be piloted in the medical program. It should be for medical patients, 6 plants, capped at that, and it should be piloted only sold at medical stores. In that, we then create a medical card registration program that many individuals who will come out of the closet and say, hey, I want to be able to cure my plant at home. It only infuses the medical programs, but it contains another sustainable market. There's a whole lot of market individuals that are growing, that are providing ancillary support to cultivators. Again, raising the market together. We currently have, we believe, agenda and momentum to get this done in the omnibus package. We have great thought process such as Don and Ken here, as well as Wesley, and everyone who sits at the table that think collaboratively. New Jersey, we have reimbursables for workers' comp. If we can get cannabis reimbursement for workers' compensation, we should be allowed to get it for those who are on state programs. That state dollars are only dedicated to those programs. Again, we need to destigmatize, make sure that we are providing plant-based access, and in that our government needs to be leading, and we are doing it, but it's collaborative with the community. We need to be pushing each other to kind of continue that journey together.
Fantastic. Clap it up. Don Parisi. Canna Coverage Insurance Brokerage is leading the charge in transforming employee health benefits by incorporating plant-based medicine, cannabis, and psychedelics. Our partnership with Benefits Health to provide the pathway to medical cannabis in addition to core health benefits. So picture your health ID cards with medical, prescription, dental, vision, and now medical cannabis. Wouldn't that be incredible? So that's a way to scale patient access to medical cannabis and patient affordability to ultimately improve health outcomes. So Don, tell us about the Cannabis program.
So backing up a little bit, let's talk about how we get the medical market to be a good competitor to the adult use market. Okay, well, get it covered. If medical cannabis was covered, that's going to be cheaper to the patient. And the federal government is recognizing that right now. The federal government finally, this monumental thing that happened on April 30th, when they said, you know what, cannabis is medicine. It actually is medicine. So it doesn't belong on Schedule 1 anymore because Schedule 1 in the Controlled Dangerous Substances Act means that they have no medicinal value whatsoever. That's not true. We now know, based upon the discovery in 1988 of the endocannabinoid system, that there's a human reaction to this. I mean, it exists in the human body. And so cannabis is a medicine. So if it's a medicine, I firmly believe that, and it can help so many people, as Ken was describing, then let's get it covered. So now an employer says, I don't, now that the federal government is saying, yeah, you can get this, you need a doctor to give a prescription. For us, a prescription is probably going to be more like the medical card that everybody hears what they're talking about. That's like a substitute for the prescription. So now the doctor issues a medical card, the doctor gets reimbursed by a health plan for doing so. The medical malpractice carriers are no longer telling doctors, if you do cannabis certifications in your office, you have to have a totally separate company because we're not going to insure you doing that because they're afraid of the federal government. That's now going to go away if this rule gets passed, and I do believe it will be passed. Some people don't. So we're gonna get there. I mean, right now the comment period is in existence. It ends on July 22nd. Anybody wants to comment, go for it. Make your opinions known. And then the DEA and the Department of Justice have to, evaluate the comments and decide what they want to do. So if it gets adopted, prescriptions / medical cards are all that's needed to get the medicine for the person's household. Now, if it's on Schedule 3 and it's through a prescription, to me, that's actually better for a dispensary than if it was completely off schedule. It's not better for individual humans because there are still some people who purchase cannabis purely for recreational purposes. In fact, some of the language that the government put out on April 30th when they proposed this rule, they had a whole bunch of data. There was one survey back in 2021 by the CDC. 8 million people were surveyed about their cannabis use. 8 million, it was way more than that were surveyed, but 8 million related to cannabis use. And of those 8 million people, only 36% of them purchased cannabis for non-medical reasons. 64% of them purchased it for medical reasons. And that's true for the adult use market too. People are just going to the adult use market because they think it's going to be less hassle. They don't have to go through the certification process. But ultimately, if it's covered, yeah, the medical market is going to be easier than the adult use market. And if I'm a dispensary, I want that. Because if it's not scheduled, then it's basically the equivalent of an over-the-counter medicine in a pharmacy. And the competition for an individual to purchase that at a pharmacy is intense. The price reductions that would have to happen for a dispensary to get to that level are going to be severe. But if it's covered, like it would be behind the prescription counter, then the patient's paying a co-insurance, maybe 50%, which is the equivalent of a 50% discount at the counter, right? But the dispensary's going to get paid from another source beyond that 50%. They're getting paid, $50 for a $100 purchase by the consumer, and then they're going to get paid more by the health plan. Geez, if I'm a dispensary, I'd rather have that model than have to compete constantly to get an over-the-counter type individual consumer to buy at whatever the price is going to be driven down to, because there's so many of us out there trying to do this. So, I believe that because the federal government's moved, the medical market is actually going to have a shot. And to the CDC, to the CRC, too many issues. The CRC, my claim is if we want to do better for the medical market, get it covered. That's definitely going to end up reducing the price and getting below adult use. Helping in the 20th century. Yes, back in the 20th century, I got help. Health plans do things to the governments. Other than that,
that's the next question.
That's the next
Okay.
one.
All right, Don. Thank you. Clap it up for Don. All right, we have a couple minutes left, and Abdul Roberts. With so many states legalizing marijuana as we have here in New Jersey, are there individuals who are medical patients experiencing deprivation of civil liberties, and why?
The short answer is yes. The reason why is for every reason that you heard here earlier by this panel and the panels before. There's a serious lack of education when it comes to cannabis, whether you're an end user, whether you're a municipality endorsing dispensaries coming into your municipality, whether you're an operator, or whether you do ancillary services in that industry. That lack of education has led medicinal patients to continue to suffer these deprivations. I didn't mention it earlier, but I actually serve in a nationwide organization where we have an initiative where we actually educate medical practitioners, legal professionals, and individual patients on these deprivations that they're losing. We're not talking about solely criminal prosecutions. We're talking about parental rights. We're talking about licensures for jobs. We're talking about a lot of things that people don't always consider when they say, I want to use marijuana as a medicinal patient. So the short answer is yes. There's a variety of reasons that I can get into, but they are suffering from this every single day.
How does rescheduling help that?
I think that's a loaded question in itself. So while there are many advocates that want rescheduling to be accomplished in the short term, there's a lot to be done, specifically when it comes to that recommendation and how it looks and plays out in the market. While it sounds good for a dispensary to say, hey, I want to get insurance money, there's a whole host of issues that come with getting insurance money as well. Like I mentioned, I represented medical providers, and they did get their money from the insurance, but at what cost? When you're subjected to an audit and they say, you owe us $4 million for these prescriptions we paid you for, and you're a small micro business, what do? Who do you contact? Things like that. So how the rescheduling of marijuana to a Schedule 3, which I would want to let people know, is more regulated than ecstasy at this point, because ecstasy is a Schedule 4 drug. How does that look? Is it really going to be beneficial to the actual operators and those who want to seek these medical medicinal cards? And what does that look like in the larger market outside of banking and other things?
Excellent, and I want to come back to you. And we're running out of time, but it's a really important conversation, so forgive us if we run over just a little bit. Ken, can you just take a couple of minutes to go through some of the legislative bills the coalition is supporting for 2024, 2025?
Yes, our ongoing goals now are insurance coverage for medical cannabis, home cultivation rights, and hospital and institutional access. So the insurance bills, we have 3 insurance bills. One of them actually got through a Senate Health Committee in the previous legislative session, but it didn't get another hearing, and that was what is now S-1944, where the cost of medical cannabis would be reimbursed by certain New Jersey programs, including catastrophic illness in children fund, the PAAD, senior gold, and victims of crime compensation. So that's the one that's actually passed the furthest. There's another bill that would require workmen's compensation, PIP, and other health insurance coverage. And actually, workmen's compensation was determined by the New Jersey Supreme Court that employers did have to reimburse workers for their medical cannabis costs in workmen's compensation programs. And then finally, there's a bill to subsidize medical cannabis in Medicaid and New Jersey Family Care. The home cultivation bills, there's also 3 home cultivation bills. Let's see, the one that we think has the best chance for passage right now is S-1393, which authorizes home cultivation just for medical patients. Now, the strongest arguments we have are, medical patients really need them because of the cost, because of a particular strain that they may be using that is best for their condition or conditions is no longer available from the alternative treatment centers. But if they could grow their own, they would have that. There's also a home cultivation bill that SA-414, which legalizes possession of 6 medical plants for personal use, and another one that legalizes 6 plants for personal use and 10 plants for medical use. So those are the bills that we're following. Hospital and institutional access really was passed with the J. Koenig law. It provided for institutional caregivers, that is to say, employees of healthcare organizations who would be authorized by the facility to go out and get the medical cannabis for the patients in those healthcare facilities, bring it back in the system for use. It's been recommended by, it's been part of the law, the J. Koenig law, that's just never been implemented. A lot of the other parts of the law have not been implemented, including dosing and administration guidelines and educational programs for healthcare providers.
Thank you very much, Ken. And Wesley, this is a little off the script, but what can we do, what can the audience do to help advocate for these bills?
I think just talking to your legislators, constantly emailing them, calling them, leaving voicemails, hooking up with organizations like Minorities for Medical Marijuana or KIDS folks, making sure that you're staying educated and tapped in. We can't do this work alone. And certainly us as an agency, we can't do this work alone. You can also be a part of the descheduling, rescheduling conversation as well. At the federal level, I know they're looking for data, and so each state, most states, have signed up to provide data about the legitimacy and the success of our medical markets and how we've maintained them over the years, even before federal involvement. So if you have data, please upload that as well. And then stay engaged with our CRC public meetings. I said it earlier, you should be engaging with the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, just like you would any other state agency, because we work for you. And we want to support an ecosystem that works not just for adult use businesses and customers, but also, first and foremost, the medical community as well.
Thank you for that. In states like New Jersey, the Attorney General is currently working on guidelines for the use of cannabis for emergency personnel such as police, fire, EMTs. 6 states currently allow for workers' comp, right? We went over that. What will be the implications of rescheduling and the delivery of health care? Yeah, that's for you. I'll open that up. I'll say that's for you and Abdul. I know that's like another hour.
I mean, it's just a lot of speculation about what it's going to take for this to really happen. I mean, we've already heard that the previous Attorney General is already signed up to sue. If this moves forward, his name rhymes with Will War. It's going to take some time. We don't know what we don't know, but what we could be confident in is that states like New Jersey and across the country are preparing in the event that Schedule 3 actually does happen. What could possibly happen is just the opening of the medical market and the strengthening of medical markets across the country. There are some legal projections that we just don't have anymore for our medical markets, and it is astronomical that finally the federal government says, yeah, you know what, you've been right this entire time. That is actually medicine. And so that is going to trickle down to all parts of life for folks that touch the plant and don't touch the plant. And what we're anticipating is really going to strengthen medical markets as long as we, the regulators, business owners, community, continue to put patients first in these kind of conversations.
I'm going to rely on Wesley's answer for
So what is the best way for municipalities to approach medical and or adult use cannabis for government employees?
So I think there's a twofold approach that needs to be taken by municipalities with regard to their employees. I didn't mention this, but our firm, we actually represent municipalities with their engagement with marijuana. And I went through a situation where an employee was suspended from their employment because of their marijuana use. But the reason for the suspension was not a municipal thing. It was actually because the Department of Transportation came down and said, hey, we need something done. You need to get a substance abuse assessment, and without that, your license is suspended. So the employer had no other option but to take that employee and put them on paid leave because of the other regulatory agencies. So I think it's important for municipalities to, one, educate themselves on the requirements of their employees, whether they have additional professional licensures that they need to maintain, and what impacts marijuana has with that. I mean, for your drivers, you know, regardless of the rescheduling, it's going to be similar to alcohol. You're not going to be able to have consumed within a certain period of time in order to get behind the wheel. So the second thing I would do is they need to take an informative approach to their employees as well, with educating the general public about what it would mean to be employed by this particular municipality. If you're going to have straightforward, every single employee is subjected to random drug testing, whether that's legally, that's a different discussion, but if that's what how you want to put forward, then you're going to need to educate your employees so that they are knowledgeable of this information, because when someone is not receiving the knowledge, that's when you start having bigger difficulties on the back end when regardless if you're trying to take action against them or not. So it's important that you build your ecosystem in rooms like this, where you get your person who's with the CRC, your medical professionals, your investors that are in this space, have them come educate you about what you need to know, where you need to know it, where to put your resources, and then you will see some progression with regard to your employees and the entire ecosystem in your space.
Thank you, Abdul. And as you can see, we've come so far, but we have such a long way to go. So give it up for my panel, and who can tell us Thank you so much. And next we have a commercial from the SESH. They have provided samples for us. And maybe it'd be easier if I go over to their table. I don't know if you have all visited the SESH. They have amazing samples of their herbal teas. So Casey, this is Casey Montgomery, and she also happens to be wearing a Canna coverage t-shirt because she is a licensed producer as well and joined our advisory board. So just take a minute to tell us about your amazing teas.
Sure, well, thank you for putting me on the spot, Nichelle. This is awesome. We are the Listed Wellness Collective with SESH, and we are here to give cannabis education as well as herbal education. We do have some of our tea samples here. They are not infused. However, we do pair our herbal tea blends with different cannabis strains and products. that do share similar terpene profiles. As you can see here, we have 3 separate seed blends. We do have some of them here for you guys to take home if you wanted to a little later. But we have our High Bliss, is a cinnamon, lemon balm, and hibiscus blend. We also have our Energy, which is lemongrass, orange peel, and ginger. And then we also have our last one is the butterfly.
CNN. Psychedelic research also has quite bipartisan support in Congress. Major medical and research institutions such as Hopkins, Sloan, NYU, and Academic Brigham are either currently conducting or fitting to conduct clinical trials with psychedelics. Many states such as Massachusetts, Kentucky, and even Alaska are setting up exploratory communities for psychedelics. Other major milestones which we should be hearing a final ruling on this summer in early August is the NDA, the new drug application submitted by the organization MAPS for the treatment of PTSD with MDMA, also known by its club drug name Molly or ecstasy. There are currently approximately over 100 clinical trials of psychedelics in phase 2 registered in the research database ClinicalTrials.gov for a variety of acute and chronic conditions. Beyond medical applications, functional mushrooms are also being explored for their use in the industries for coding to computers. I recently read an article where the authors calculated that there were more than 1.5 million total classical combinations for various types of formulations for cannabis and hemp, so there is astronomical potential for combat in all aspects of our future. Researchers are even looking into the potential for AI to create new analog compounds of psychedelic molecules that provide a therapeutic effect without hallucinations. So think of Parisi, a therapeutic neuroplasticity, promoting properties of LSD without the so-called hallucinogenic trips. Companies are also looking into testing these compounds in space to manufacture new and improved compounds. With all this innovation, we still must not lose insight as to what we can learn from indigenous peoples who have vast experience and have been restorers of these sacred compounds for thousands of years. We can learn many things from them on how to incorporate more diverse voices and community into the process at all levels of organizing these outfits with those that need them. Please also visit our psychedelics information table. We have lots of valuable information there, and we also have some really interesting stories and advocates that you can put on the QR codes there. So thank you for joining us on this journey and navigate this transformative era of health and wellness. So welcome to the panelists. Please just a quick introduction of Joe Shapiro, Esquire, Denise Rue, psychedelic integration coach and trauma-focused therapist, Dr. Lakeisha, mental health and herbalist, Pierre-Louis Byrnes, entrepreneur extraordinaire, and DeVeaux, former president of New Jersey Cannabis Association and current VP of American Technical Affairs, and Thunder Walker, American media personality network. So panelists, please take a minute and tell us a little bit more about yourselves. Joe, let's start with you.
I'm really excited to be on this panel because mushrooms have changed, really changed my life. I think it's important to understand what are psychedelics, and with that, you have to make your decision on how you want to proceed in wellness. But for me, I always say we actually sell schools and we actually teach classes on how to program. We had our first mushroom festival. It's sold out from people all over the country. And it's amazing because it's an event that allows the entire family to participate. Once again, sometimes those are pediatric, wellness, veterans, and people of color. So I was excited to find out that this little thing that we just passed along in our yards and go bars for, and it's so open for us to be able to find in our community, would change my life and could change others that have been to war or that were born with certain disabilities. So that's why I'm here on this panel, and I want to share with you everything that I possibly can to understand your first steps into moving into this space.
Thank you. Thank you. Joe, give us a little bit more about you.
Sure. First, I want to thank Ed for getting a little dimmer in here. Thank you. Because we want to hear what everybody says. Thank you for listening to us and everybody's time. We appreciate. we appreciate everyone's time, so, yeah. So, I'm Joseph Shapiro, I'm a lawyer. I focus primarily in my practice on litigation and bankruptcy, but the last 7 years I've represented clients in cannabis, and in the last couple of years, I've run a subcommittee on psychedelics through the Bar Association, where we've had some of the most brilliant people come on from across the country. And there's so many angles you can address in psychedelics. We've had doctors, policymakers, some local New Jersey legislators. We've had the whole gambit. And so, including this room, just so many great people. I meet great people every day in the space of psychedelics, just even outside of the subcommittee. I had 2 calls alone yesterday, one with an Oregon, someone who runs 2 service centers in Oregon. I just love these people, generally, the community's great. And I'm excited that the community's coming here to Jersey. I think just by staying put, it's kind of coming to us, which is nice. There is legislation that we'll talk about that's pending in Jersey, and it's going to open up a lot of opportunity. It's not going to exactly look like cannabis at all, but it's going to look like something different. It's exciting.
Thank you, Joe. Denise, a little bit more on you, please.
Everyone, I'm Denise, licensed clinical social worker and founder in New Jersey Psychedelic Therapy Association for 3 years. I lived and worked in Jamaica at a legal psilocybin retreat, and then when I came back to New Jersey in December 2023, I can't remember. And I was like, I have to find my peace. And actually, I was one of the first people that I spoke to, because I was sniffing out what's going on in New Jersey. So a lot is going on, and we're here to talk to you.
Thank you, Denise. Dr. Lakeisha, a little bit more about it.
First, I'll have to say, I'm giving sabbatical blessings to you all. Today on tap, I don't usually work on Sabbath, but I'm here representing. My name is Dr. Lakeisha. I'm a traditional naturopath and a registered clinical herbalist. So really, my core competencies are utilizing herbs as the basis of nutrition to combat the symptoms of chronic, degenerative, and terminal illness. I'm an educator on the endogenous cannabinoid system and its function and physiology. I was an owner-operator in California of dispensing locations that were my private practice for over a decade. I was also a founding board member and the first elected president of the California Cannabis Industry Association, so I helped write the laws for cannabis in California. I served 2 years on the National Cannabis Industry Association board as the California representative working on federal policy in Washington, D.C., and also founded and chaired their Minority Business Council to make sure those people who were disproportionately affected by foreign drugs had space in this new emerging industry. From California, I went to Jamaica for 5 years, actually worked with the Cannabis Licensing Authority there. I've been on the international stage for a very long time, worked with a number of countries. I actually serve on the Zimbabwe Hemp Trust Board of Directors as well, amongst others. But I'm a plant medicine advocate overall. The reason that I came from Jamaica to New York City, which is why I'm here on the East Coast, is because my 2-year-old was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So I went to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center specifically to seek treatment for her. I've been on the East Coast for 2 years. She's been in treatment that entire 2 years. And unfortunately, they weren't able to get her stable at the #1 cancer center that should have been. And she passed away in January. So I've been here for 2 years, and I'm advocating on behalf of plant medicine, and by way of psychedelics, I'll be happy to tell that story over on this panel. I'm using it and its wonderful ability to help me heal. It's a wonderful way to heal when you're healing.
Thank you, Dr. Kimberly Byrnes.
Yo, yo, yo! So in 1997, I took my first trip on mushroom, And here I am, like almost 30 years later, and it's amazing. I'm an entrepreneur, and I come from the wellness space. I owned Pilates studios and gyms and worked for companies like Nike and Equinox, Lululemon ambassador. I love plant medicine. Currently, I'm co-founder of Tokes, which is a cannabis lifestyle brand built by girls and powered by plants based out of my home city of New York. I am a huge psilocybin advocate. I constantly am spreading the word of how psychedelics can help people reduce stress, anxiety, pain, and also use it in microdose forms for just like everyday life. I take mushrooms pretty much every other day. Some people like to do their microdosing a little different, and there's lots of information available, but for me, the more the merrier. Also, I've been a trusted source to get, plant medicine that isn't exactly legal, if you know what I mean. So I've been selling cannabis since 1994. I've been arrested here in the sweet state of New Jersey and have had to, overcome some, justice things. But in the meantime, I'm a license holder in Maryland. I have a processing license for adult use there. I'm an applicant in New York, waiting, and also just applied here in Jersey. So I'm from Staten Island, so I feel like I'm a little bit from Jersey and a little bit from New York, you know what I'm saying?
You're the person of the world. All right, kid, Evan, my friend, tell us a little bit more about that.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been in the cannabis space for about a decade now, all policy. I was fortunate enough to help co-create the New Jersey Cannabis Business Association, the state's first and largest trade association for the cannabis industry. I think this panel, not only is it timely, and we'll get into it as a veteran, and I'll share some thoughts there, but I think it's a natural progression. When we looked at the first legalization bill, psychedelics were in it, but in order to get the bill to pass, certain things had to die. And for better or for worse, we got the bill passed. New Jersey, I think, has done an excellent job in creating a legalized adult use industry, but the psychedelics had to go in that first iteration. But I think natural progression, the evolution of the industry, I think we're here, I think it's timely, and I think it's going to be a very real conversation in the immediate future.
Thank you, Ed. So, Joe, let's set the tone and kick this panel off by providing our audience with a broad overview of the landscape for psychedelics. Multi-part question. Give us a brief 10,000-foot overview and framework of where psychedelics stand at the federal level, in more mature market of Oregon with Measure 109 in place, and psilocybin centers running for over a year now, and then bring it all back to New Jersey and tell us a little bit about the psilocybin bill S-2283, how it's different than Oregon, similar to Oregon, where the bill stands now in the legislature, and where do you think something will be approved of, and what it will look like in the future?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Ken. So everyone knows psychedelics are generally illegal. That's because they're Schedule 1. It's like cannabis. Until recently, Schedule 1. Psychedelics is a whole rainbow of different compounds. There's a whole ton of them. You have traditional psychedelics. The main one of note, really, in this discussion is psilocybin mushrooms. They're safe, they're effective, widely studied, hundreds of articles in medical journals. This is well established. They're safe, they're effective, and they help people. So on the federal level, there is a whole industry of clinical trials. Those are FDA clinical trials with a ton of them, just like any other drugs being developed. Psychedelics are being developed through clinical trial routes. That's federally legal. There's legal producers of psychedelics in the United States. They make LSD, they make psilocybin, they give them to clinics which then run trials, all legally under the FDA. You have a whole separate track under state-regulated models, and that's what, like New Jersey Cannabis is a state-regulated model. We're now working in many states, including New Jersey, on a state-regulated psychedelics model. It's the same stuff, just completely two different tracks, and they will like never meet, really, until who knows. So we're really talking today about the state-regulated model. But it'll be just like cannabis, still scheduled. So perhaps if psilocybin is rescheduled in the future, you can have a doctor prescribe psilocybin to you. That's a completely different thing. We're really focusing on the state-regulated model. And so let's talk about the most important state-regulated model is right now we have a bill in front of the New Jersey legislature. Denise has testified in the last couple of weeks in front of the Senate and the Assembly. I was lucky to testify in front of the Assembly. And my main 3 points were, number one, as a lawyer, we have lawyers who can handle this. We can deal with this, we can help businesses when this comes online. We can help service centers that open up, producers, workers, facilitators. We can handle that. And that was relevant to me as an attorney. Two, I said, New Jersey is all about innovation. These legislators should embrace innovation. We can be the first East Coast state to have a state-regulated model and do it right. And we don't have to be like Oregon. Oregon is doing a good job actually, but they have bad PR. So the third thing is, and this was relevant in Oregon, is in New Jersey we really have to get on the ground and talk to mayors and talk to towns and say, hey, this is coming. It's a kind of an inevitability, just like cannabis. Let's not create bottlenecks like in cannabis. We need access. So I formed with a nurse practitioner and also a facilitator, Sarah Price. We formed something called the New Jersey Psychedelic. The New Jersey Psychedelic League. So the New Jersey Psychedelic League is a play on words. Is a league of municipalities, which every town is a part of. So New Jersey Psychedelic League is going to source as much information as possible to not create a bottleneck. Like Oregon saw, if you look at a map of Oregon, access is only west of a certain mountain range. Everything east of there, it's all conservative, it's all red. There's no access, minimal access. And there's a lot of rules, regulations to talk more about. I spoke to the service center operator yesterday. But Psychedelic League wants to support, Denise is focused on psychedelic therapy, New Jersey Psychedelic Therapy Association. We want to get all the knowledge that she has, and all the knowledge like Heroic Hearts, the Veterans Association has, and put it in front of mayors in a very precise way, and then start getting buy-in. We're still 2 years down the line. We want to start getting buy-in now. So that's hopefully full circle.
Thank you, Joe. Denise, you are the founder of the New Jersey Psychedelic Association, trauma-focused therapist, retreat leader, integration coach, amongst other amazing things. And you have taken part in thousands of sessions with psychedelics. You and your organization have been instrumental in helping shape the S-2283 bill with legislators here in New Jersey. Talk to us more about what we can learn and what we should or shouldn't be incorporated into the bill from your vast experience involved with psychedelics, and what are some of the important takeaways that you can point out from Oregon, Colorado Advisory Board, the FDA decision for MDMA, and round your response up with the concerns and hopes of the business of psychedelics going forward, especially in New Jersey.
Is that all?
That's all.
Okay.
I know you can do it.
So I'm going to start where the bill is. But before that, we should know that when we're talking about psilocybin in this context, it is as therapy, okay? So we have 3 sessions. We'll have a preparation session, the medicine session, and the integration session. Psilocybin service centers will be set up, and what it looks like is happening now as it gets more medical, that a physician or medical professional will have to give a referral, and it may be only for a certain number of conditions. So say like anxiety, PTSD, treatment-resistant depression, we don't know. So that wasn't in the original bill, but as it's getting more, it's becoming more regular, which I believe in. And also the decrim arm and the expungement arm was axed from the get-go. So incredibly unfortunate, but that's the world that we live in. So as a therapist, I can unequivocally say that psilocybin is the greatest healing modality that I've encountered. It's not for everyone. It has to be used within the context of safety and support. So it remains to be seen what will happen with this bill. There's a tremendous amount of fear. You know, psilocybin is the safest psychedelic drug, the safest drug. But many of the legislators are very fixated on heart health and things that just really have nothing to do with the science. But as we well know with legislation, it's not necessarily based in science. So what we've been trying to do as an organization is educate legislators, educate therapists, educate the public. One thing that surprised me when I got back to New Jersey was how ignorant the therapists were. You know, this is just around the pipe, and there's so many therapists who don't know. So for harm reduction, therapists really do need to know. If you're thinking of doing an underground trip, we should know about harm reduction. We should know where to refer you, just to keep you safe. So regarding that FDA advisory panel, so many of you may know about MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, which is founded by Abdul, and for decades, he's raised about $200 million to finance research, because all of this research has been done with philanthropic funds. Because of the Schedule I regulation. So MAPS and their for-profit arm, Lycos, they've conducted phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials, and it seemed like it was a given that MDMA assisted therapy for PTSD, and this is in the context, I think, of 9 therapy sessions and 3 medicine sessions. Really thought that this would just be green light in. But there were a lot of concerns, and in the preliminary hearing, the advisory panel voted 8-2 against it, I believe. And the final hearing is in August, but 80% of the time, the full FDA does abide by what the advisory panel says. So we are by no means in golden territory here. So our best avenue is to advocate and to talk to your legislators. You can go to our website, ngpta.net, become a member, it's free, there's information, there's sample emails to send, go to your local legislators. They do respond to personal stories about you or a loved one. We get a lot across the aisle support for end-of-life anxiety, treatment-resistant depression, and PTSD. So if you have personal stories about those conditions, that's kind of what moves legislators. But there's still a lot of myth-making, a lot of ignorance, and you know, I don't know about the FDA and how they're in the revolving door with pharmaceutical companies, but there's something to be said that maybe pharmaceutical companies, unless they can capitalize on this, they might really not want someone with treatment-resistant depression to have 1 or 2 psilocybin sessions and then be good, right? That will get them off of a string of psychotropic medications. So we have a lot of work to do for educating the citizens of this state.
Thank you, Denise. I think the final decision is coming August 11th from the FDA. So, Dr. Lakeisha, as a naturopath, clinical herbalist, and healer who has been working with cannabis and plant medicine in general for many years, tell us how do you incorporate psychedelics into your practice, and what does it mean for you to experience the re-emergent use of certain psychedelics through the bills like the one moving forward here in New Jersey?
Well, I think that, coming from a place like California, where, like a lot of things go there, my friend, coincidentally, Dave Hodges, has the largest psychedelic church, anywhere. Actually, he has the largest mega church anywhere. He just recently told me that he has 109,000 members, the Church of Ambrosia. And they focus on psychedelics, mostly, like psilocybin. So seeing an emergence of psychedelic-assisted therapy being focused on from that standpoint is very interesting. Seeing it happen on the West Coast where, places, certain jurisdictions in Colorado and Oregon, they're all introducing these things. I'm hearing new that, Oklahoma, that is very interesting that it's, coming on. From a regulatory standpoint, I think I want to say one thing. I'm hearing that the regulators are afraid, of many of these plant medicines. I found that in working with, the California Cannabis Industry Association, the National Cannabis Industry Association. When you talk to regulators, especially about full adult use and legalizing across the board, they are terrified. But when you have those personal stories, the personal touch about how this has affected you, and even more than that, drawing on the science. For me, in cannabis specifically, when I talk about the nutritional aspects and how you nutritionally should supplement your endogenous cannabinoid system for true health and wellness, when you say those things, if there's anything that people will pay their last dollar for, it's for their health. One more day on this planet having a good quality of life. When you explain it that way, they understand. So from a regulatory standpoint, I want to put that bug in everyone's ear and make sure that they're talking to their regulators and doing that storytelling. On the flip side of it, I happen to be in New York City now. And because of the circles that I run in, I've been invited to some very interesting parties that are on neuropsychiatry, one was called. They're very interesting names for these parties that you have to, and the very last one, the former president of the American Psychiatric Association was the keynote. But at the end of the day, what they really are parties for a lot of companies pitching their new psychedelic assisted therapy businesses and raising millions of dollars. So wherever this is right now on the regulatory, side, there are people that are pushing the business forward. And it's coming from, very astute business people and people in medical professions. So I say that to say this. The emergence of plant medicine is coming because it's consumer driven. People want a solution. The doctors, the regulators, they're recognizing this and they're trying to come up with solutions, but the laws need to catch up with what the consumers want.
Thank you, Dr. Lakeisha. Kim, you're a successful entrepreneur and know a ton about business, marketing, etc. I know you work with cannabis products and functional mushrooms. Tell us how the passage of these types of bills like we see in Oregon and like we see shaping up in New Jersey involving psilocybin service centers could appeal to you as an entrepreneur. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, so like Dr. Lakeisha said, it's customer driven and people want this. And we can't fight, we have to give the people what they want, because if we don't, what happens? They go to the off market and they find what they want anyway. So what's amazing about what's happening in Oregon is hundreds and hundreds of people are signing up to go to these wellness centers, and a lot of them are from out of state. Right, Oregon isn't known for its like high population, right? So how are they making money, these wellness centers? It's people from all over the world going to get this assisted therapy. And as we all know, our politicians are fucking liars, and they take all the money, right? They are taking the money from the pharmaceutical companies, are all in cohorts with each other. So the problem is that
recently spoke at the Psychedelics conference in New York, Horizons, and said we need to keep pushing the science to win over the skeptics. The VA has the largest health system in the country and serves a population with disproportionately high rates of PTSD. 11 to 20% of all vets suffer from PTSD. Many are seeking treatments in other countries. There are about 800,000 vets in New York and 150,000 in New Jersey. There is a widespread support for more research for vets and psychedelic treatments for PTSD. A recent poll conducted by Stockton University, William J. Hughes Center for Public Policy showed that the majority of New Jersey, means 55%, supported legalized medical mushroom treatment for supervisory by doctors. A poll I personally conducted with over 1,200 participants, overwhelmingly more than 70% supported research with psychedelics. With bipartisan support like this, and numbers like this, with the passage of the comprehensive bills such as S-2283, what does that mean for New Jersey veterans?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes.
As most people, when they hear me speak, I tell like how I got here, right? How I got here. In the cannabis world, there was a story how I got here. When it comes to psychedelics, how did I get here? Well, about 10 years ago, when I got into the cannabis space, I was invited to a fundraiser for a group out of New York, Headstrong. And I was introduced to private citizens that were raising private dollars to make sure that veterans got better service than what they were receiving through the VA. And it was at that event that my eyes were open to a number, I think, I'm sure it has not changed. If anything, it has gone up. It certainly has not gone down. But I was introduced to the fact that 22 veterans a day commit suicide. 22 veterans a day. It's time for a drastic change with respect to how we treat not just veterans, but people. When you look at the fact that the VA was in essence doling out opioids, you combine that with alcohol abuse, it's easy to get to 22 suicides a day. Where I am now, and I think this is the direction that the panelists are taking us to, and certainly much more clinical language than I could share. But the fact is this, if we don't do something different, if we don't do something more drastic, if we don't think outside of the box with respect to how we treat not just veterans, but people that suffer from PTSD because of the environment in which they live. People are suffering because of the economy. People are suffering because of the lack of affordable housing. People are feeling some sort of way about the way in which we live. And so it's time that we do something drastic. It's time that we do something out of the box. And I was introduced through my colleagues and other veterans in other states, the notion of a controlled trip is helping veterans, whether it's psilocybin, whether it's mushrooms, whether it's LSD. Remember, LSD has actually birthed in the military-industrial complex. It was supposed to be a truth serum, so it was in fact something that we knew existed, and we've been toying with it for decades. And so now we've got to do something different, we've got to do something drastic. So that's number one. Veteran community, driving the research, driving the bipartisan effort. When you look at now where we are legislatively, again, I think it's a natural progression, I think it's a natural evolution of where do we go from here. And looking back, the removal of psilocybin from the original cannabis bill was done for expediency, and now it's time to revisit it. The best thing, and I'll end here, the best thing about being part of the cannabis industry and advocating for legalization, adult use, and being part of the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce was that when I speak to legislators, I speak to mayors and council people, here we are. We are over a decade since we've had legal cannabis. It started with the medical cannabis legislation. So we have actually had legalized cannabis for longer than we think. My term that I use with them is, look at the last 12 years where we've had legal cannabis and the sky has not fallen. Here we are 12 years later, legal cannabis, the sky hasn't fallen. Nobody is shooting up the pot and on street corners. The traffic fatalities that were envisioned are really a cause now. Post-pandemic, people are just driving too fast. And normal accidents, if you use that term, a normal accident now becomes a fatal accident because of the high rates of speed that people are traveling. It's not because we legalized cannabis. The sky hasn't fallen, and I think we look forward to having a conversation, a safe, regulated, psychedelic economy, as I think we're set.
Thank you, I agree 100%. In Thunder, you're one of the most well-traveled people I know. When you travel around the country with the Thunder Walker Experience Tour, tell us what you take away from the different states in regards to psychedelics and why New Jersey holds a special place for you. You have been here twice that I know of, once before on the functional mushroom panel of mine, now on the psychedelics panel. So tell us a bit more about the tour and how you use functional mushrooms and psychedelics personally and professionally.
Well, what's so interesting about the tour is that it's very fine and going into all different areas of the country. So there's rural areas, the cities, all of that within snapshots. It's really amazing how you find out that in New Jersey and in Philadelphia, some of the streets are so small, you still can't get certain vehicles down those streets. And so I had a team where we gathered people from all over the country. So I would gather someone from Florida, from California, someone from that particular state, and we would call that particular person a docent. So they would act as the travel guide to whatever state we were visiting. But what's important about psilocybin and mushrooms, functional mushrooms, also medicinal mushrooms, and then psychedelic mushrooms, because I believe that there are three categories. You're going to find that you will gravitate to what you need. And for me, as I started to go through some health issues for focusing, for brain cloudiness, and all of those things, because I was so demanding on myself. The last state that we went to for 2023, it was like the season ended, and I was pulling up into the parking lot of Avis Rental Car. I threw open the door and just was like sick right out there on the parking lot. And, you know, they filmed the whole thing, so it's like that's the end of that season. But I realized that my body was telling me what I needed, and I wasn't listening. So first what happens to your body is that you start to get brain fog. You start to really figure out, hey, am I here, am I not here, am I listening? I didn't know if I was going through dementia or ADHD. I was really trying to figure out what I needed myself without going through a panic. And I had sponsors, and I had people who had contracted for the Smoke Currency Tour that I did not want to let down. It never been done before. And I started using lion's mane, I started using turkey tail, all of those things, and then all of a sudden my brain started to connect again, and it was amazing for me. And I started telling other people about it. And you wouldn't believe how many people would go to the season finale of their life where they were going through menopause, or they were going through a divorce, or maybe their child was graduating from high school or college, and then all of a sudden they had the empty nest syndrome. And we're all going through our own pains and issues. The reason why New Jersey was so special to me is because of the fact, as I started to go through those things, I was able to connect not only on the medicinal side, but actually connect to the community and find out what mushrooms were growing in each state. So as I got a chance to travel, I was able to do that. But my history goes way, way back as far as medicinal medicine is concerned. And I believe a lot of you guys probably have the same thing. If you ever sat on your porch with your grandmother and your big mama and they were snapping peas and talking about history and family history, you would realize that that's part of healing also. And that's what I love about plant medicine, because it takes us back to our ancestors. It takes us back to where we begin, our beginnings, right? But there's more to these mushrooms. Now they're using mushrooms to actually create building materials. They're using mushrooms to actually create new leathers, right? There's so many different things that are happening in this industry. We need you to be a part of it, even if you don't want to put your toe completely in the water of psychedelics. It sounds scary to some people to say, oh, I'm going on a trip, or this person went on a trip, all of those things. This mushroom ecosystem is as big as cannabis, but it's going to be accepted quicker, in my opinion, because it is not smoked. It is, they're capsules, or you eat them, or whatever. But there's so many different things that we have not even touched on that I wanted to just bring up. And when I got to New Jersey, I was able to see all that. I mean, to see a whole leather outfit made out of mushrooms, or there's a house in Texas where I'm originally from that's made out of mushrooms. And that's the building material. That is the reason why we need to get behind each other and go to our legislators and make sure that we have these things for us, because we're running out of our normal things that we would deal with. It's very, very expensive. You know, my background is real estate, so I'm going to always go back to that. So it's very, very expensive to get the wood, to get the trees, to do all the lumber and all of that, when we can actually grow this ourselves as a new option. And so I found those things out as I started to visit other states in the Smoke Currency Tour. And I was able to find out how we could have new things with energy and efficient housing and efficient gardening and efficient farming based off of mushrooms. And so that's what brings me back time and time again to New Jersey, to make sure that I advocate for those things. Because it's important to understand, I needed the medicine for my brain, I needed the medicine for my child. We need those things also. But we can also change our life by using them for leather, by using them for building materials, and all those other things that mushrooms are really, really great for.
Thank you, Senator. And we have about a minute left, so a parting comment to start with Joe right down the line.
Yeah, sure. So I think something interesting that struck me, I had a call yesterday with someone who runs a couple service centers in Oregon, and about a month ago I had a call with someone else who she runs the first service center in Oregon. And it really is about community, because number one, they can't really advertise that. There's really strict advertising in Oregon. They can't say psilocybin therapy. They can't. So they're actually really relying on publicity, like newspaper quotes. They're very paid on advertising. So what's really important to them is word of mouth and community, and I think that's just across the board for psychedelics. So that was. And the thing that this owner said was, he actually, in this model, in this state-regulated model, while we some of us cringe at the idea of medicalization of psychedelics, I heard yesterday he said, actually, that's exactly the people who are buying out of us and paying a lot of money, they want it to be medicalized. And I think, Ed had said and the other panelists, it's a first step. And I guess my pitch is to y'all, if you can get me saying y'all. I went to school in Georgia, so I have a little bit of it. Yeah, so if you're on LinkedIn, if you can follow New Jersey Psychedelic League, we're looking to have events and kind of back to community, having interviews and more of these live events, especially on LinkedIn. So go to New Jersey Psychedelic League and follow us. That'd be great.
Thank you, Joe. Denise.
Yeah, two things that I want to mention. So, yes, I know we have to be within the regulated, mandated medical model, but it is a social justice and accessibility issue. These psilocybin service centers in Oregon, I think the average treatment, if you will, is about $3,500 for one session. The MDMA assisted therapy protocol, $26,000. Okay, so the retreat where I worked, probably cheapest place there, cheapest room, $8,000. Okay, so this isn't accessible to the majority of people. So we have to think about how we're going to work that in the social justice and accessibility part in our models. Also, something that we haven't done a very good job with is honoring the indigenous peoples who have stewarded this medicine for millennia. They are being left out of research, left out of the marketing. We're not honoring them. And I really encourage you, go on YouTube, look up closing ceremony of the MAPS conference when indigenous people stormed the stage, and they speak very eloquently about how they have been left behind. So we really have to continue this continue thinking about indigenous people and accessibility for underrepresented populations as we move forward with this.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Dr. Lakeisha, Party Howard.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. The access, the incorporation of indigenous cultures. You know, I'm fortunate. Like I said, when I decided that I was sad and the plant, the medicine actually called to me to utilize it, I have a friend that I could call up in California who has the largest psychedelics church, and I could just say, hey, I want to stop by, and he facilitated a whole beautiful ceremony for me in the hills of Oakland, you know what I mean? Like, I can do that. But not everyone can do that. Not everyone has access, but they should. You know, this was very beneficial for me to help to get my life back on track after enormous, you know, loss and just horrid grief. And there are so many people that are suffering and suffering in silence, and it shouldn't have to. So we should really work, again, you know, with our legislators, with our lawmakers, within our communities, educating ourselves so that we can be wonderful stewards of not only these plant medicines, but also of the community and of the industries that are now being formed around these botanical compounds.
Thank you, Dr. Lakeisha. Kim, parting comment.
Thank you so much to everyone on this panel. I love speaking on these panels and listening to the other people because I learned so much. And there is a lot of information. I think it's important for everyone just to use your voice. We have to demand the opportunity to have access to plant medicine. And again, when you are getting your paycheck, I advise you to just look at your stub, whether that's electronically or not, and see how much money you are giving to our government. And then remember that they work for us. Unless you use your voice, and you can use your voice by joining organizations like the New Jersey Psychedelic League and different organizations in our community that unite our voice.
But if you're not advocating for yourself and for your community, then you're paying people for nothing. You're giving our government money for cocaine and strippers, but not access for people that are suffering in our community. You can hit me up anytime on LinkedIn. My name is Kimberly Byrnes. It's Kimberly with a Y, K-Y-M-B-E-R-L-Y, Byrnes with a Y, B-Y-R-N-E-S. I'm happy to point you in the directions of different organizations that I support and different people in our community that are caregivers that can help anyone who is in need.
Thank you, Kimberly. Edmund, party comment.
Thank you so much. I gotta stop doing these panels because I realize just how uncool I am. So I think just like when we look at the legalization and eventual normalization of cannabis as an industry, I think we all have a responsibility to educate ourselves and come to terms with what is it that we're looking at, what is it that we're working with. And I think what you'll do is you'll understand that we are talking about medicine, just like I had to learn that cannabis was a medicine. We'll learn that it's a medicine, and that if regulated and if applied properly, that I think you're going to help more people than you thought. And so advocate for yourselves, advocate for the industry, and be smart about it and be respectful about it. There's a way of approaching the legislature, there's a way about approaching leadership, even approaching the research community. And I think you guys are fantastic, and I just think that I know what I don't know. And so I look forward to working with you and finding out more so that I can know better. Because when I know better, I'll do better.
Thank you. So how about a round of applause for this historic panel?